Yes. I want to, before we start today, just want to reiterate, this show is free and will always be free. Never going to put this behind a paywall or anything. And appreciate all you listeners. One thing you can do to help pay it back, if you like this show and provide you entertainment, just make sure you subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you hit subscribe. And wherever you listen, hit the like or whatever it is. Leave a review if you can. That helps boost us up in the algorithms. And share the show. Share with your friends, coworkers, family, cellmates, whatever. And anyone you think might be interested. That will help us immensely keep things going and growing. Big major shout out to all the Patreon subscribers. As I always say, you guys are the complete rulers for me. If you are interested in really supporting the show even further, check out patreon.com/bigtruth. If you have some empty space on your wall that you're looking to fill with artwork, whether it's at your house, your work, your office, your garage, especially if you have a tattoo shop and you need to flash up, get some new flash, some new blood in there, you need to check out Tattoo Flash Collective. Your cell, your padded cell, your cement cell, wherever, you know what I mean? So check it out. Tattoo Flash Collective. They have flash prints, art prints by tattoo artists all around the world. Big poster size books, everything. Not just flash sheets, but everything. So check them out, tattooflashcollective.com. If you use the promo code BigTruth at checkout, you get 10% off your order. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, you get even more, but you have to join Patreon to find out what that is. So if you need any motorcycle parts or you want some motorcycle like related swag, some like punk rock oriented, hardcore oriented motorcycle chopper apparel, check out chopperhead.com. Is the website for my brick and mortar motorcycle shop. But if you're in the Northeast and you want to come in and hang out, we have a full brick and mortar motorcycle shop with a showroom, parts counter, and a garage out back. So whether you need an oil change or a full custom motorcycle built, new exhaust, some speed work done, you want to put a new cam in or something, we got you. You know what I mean? So check us out, chopperhead.com, 13 County Road, East Freetown, Massachusetts. But if you live in a different country or other side of the country and you just want to rep with a t-shirt or a hoodie, check us out, chopperhead.com. And for any more information about the podcast, just go to bigtruthpodcast.com. This is a long one, so settle in, and it's a good one. My man Harley, so check it out.
Sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Yes, once again, we have liftoff. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of the Big Truth Podcast. And I'm here in Chopperhead Custom Cycles on the extra table because all the lifts are full with my man Harley, the good Harley, as Jimmy G would say, shout out in the music. Yeah. Harley from Tradition Cycles out in Connecticut. Longtime friend and a perfect guest for this podcast because he's into the world of punk and hardcore and choppers and weird shit and all the good shit, man. So it's like the supreme type of guest for this fucking podcast.
I'm supreme.
Supreme, right?
Wow.
Top tier. So what's going on, man? We've already just shot the shit for a couple hours and caught up because it's been a while since we've hung out.
Yeah,
which
it's been
good.
a long time.
Yeah. So what's been going on, dude? What's happening?
Just starting to get back into the swing of things with bike stuff.
Yeah.
I had a little hiatus for a minute and some family stuff.
Yeah.
And took precedence over over bike stuff as although I do love bike stuff and miss it. It's just one of those things where you got to do what you got to do.
Family first.
Yeah. And you don't have to. Nobody tells you that you do have to do it, but or you're obligated to do it. But you do what you do, and that's it. So
in that circumstance, and not for nothing, it shows a lot about your character. And we don't have to get into the details of it because it's no one's business. But it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But so fuck yeah, man. So I saw the new hoodie with the with all the stash spots, fucking gun holsters and fucking switchblades and fucking hide all your dirty shit. Fucking what's going on?
You got to be prepared, dude.
Yeah, dude.
You always have to be prepared. This run we didn't. There wasn't enough material from the manufacturers to really make big size like double X, triple X. Next run, and I was kind of like testing the waters with it.
Yeah,
I always really wanted to do a hoodie that like had a purpose.
Yeah,
I mean, I think hoodies have purposes already, but kind of as far as design goes, with bike stuff, it's like it's always a pain in the ass to have your phone. It's always a pain in the ass to have your wallet. Especially riding choppers, your shit falls out onto the street.
Shit's
all
rattling.
The time. Yeah.
Shaking.
So
hitting a bump, fucking getting airborne.
Right. So or just acting like a fool.
Yeah.
And so this one I designed that so it basically has like a cell phone pocket inside the kangaroo pouch in the front.
So this wasn't like something, and I'm not actually. This is like I'm really fucking interested in this. I know it sounds like a commercial already, but it's not. Because I just saw it like yesterday or something.
Yeah.
So you designed this. It's not like some like company that you sourced some shit from.
No. I fully designed
That's
the
fucking
hoodie.
wild. Yeah.
So it's like super heavyweight. It's basically made to. Well, because we're on the East Coast,
yes,
and everything is function before fashion.
Yeah.
For the most part, unless you want to freeze your ass off in the wintertime. But I made it so that it was like a spring hoodie that you could ride in without wearing anything else. Maybe a vest over it, but essentially just a heavyweight sweatshirt. So I sourced a manufacturer, and they're all basically like handmade. And we've been working on kind of design, little design things here and there and whatnot. And basically what it came down to was, the pocket in the hood is kind of a stash pocket.
Sure.
For value, quote unquote, valuables.
For nefarious valuables.
Yeah. Or you could just put your license in a credit card in there.
And your registration.
Yeah. Like we have those. Like any of us have a registration to a bike. But,
what the best hustle is? Get a motorcycle shop and get a dealer plate.
Yeah, I know.
That's the hustle.
Connecticut is such a nightmare to get a dealer plate. So it's very difficult to get. You have to sell like X amount of bikes every year. To get. Even with car stuff, it's kind of a pain in the ass. They're not nice to motorcyclists, especially vintage stuff. So anyway, the deal was I just wanted to make a sweatshirt that like a hoodie that I would wear.
Yeah.
And that kind of had just the stuff in it that I needed. And it's little stuff like the pocket for the cell phone inside the pocket is on the left-hand side, so that when you're riding, you don't have to take your hand off the throttle to get your phone out. I'm not condoning taking your phone out while you're riding a motorcycle, but
like, let's face it, Instagram exists for motorcyclists to take pictures while they're riding. So that's what happens. Yeah, everyone does it.
I don't have anybody really to ride with. So I don't ever get footage of me riding a motorcycle. It's just like, and I'm like,
well, you get the behind the bars picture, like of a beautiful landscape in front of you while you're riding.
I guess, yeah. Well, the California dudes all ride suicide shifts, so they can. They could take their phones out here. I like having a clutch lever on my bikes, but that's just me.
I'm the same, man. Like I've done it. Like I never had a bike that was just that.
Yeah.
I'm like the Rum Runner is, but it doesn't count on a trike. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it's super. It's cool looking and it's badass.
Yeah. It's nice to have nice clean bars.
For sure. But especially if you have like a early style throttle on it as well, and then the bars are super clean.
Like the internal throttle,
throttle, or whatever. But I feel like on the East Coast, it's just not, especially in Connecticut, it's not practical, especially if you don't have a front brake. You're not going to run it. There's too many lights on hills.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And that's the one time you're like, oh shit, dude, I got to go through this light or I'm going to get stuck.
Yeah.
So, the Mantis has it on it, but it's more of a show bike, you know, and it's not a rider, but, and I grew up riding dirt bikes.
Yep.
So I always, you know, clutch on the bars for me, like a clutch lever is always faster. I'm just used to it, you know.
It's one of those things, right? Like if the only bike you had was a suicide shift, whatever, you know what I mean? Like you'd get used to just that. And then going to a clutch lever would be weird.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you're from clutch levers going to that, you can do it and you'll do it, but like it's just weird, you know?
I will not ride a tank shift bike.
No.
Dude, I hate tank shift. That neutral thing in the middle between first and it's too much.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's too much for my brain capacity to and like
and when those were on the road, speed limits were like 40 miles an hour, and there was only like 5 cars in the town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So
it wasn't. It wasn't like a video game of like evading motherfuckers on cell phones
and like toe to go, like rocker clutch. I'm not like I could run like a Lee style clutch pedal, but
a rocket clutch makes sense though if you want to stop, like you know, like if you're on the hill. You know what I mean?
I think too if you're sitting with a pogo, it makes sense because it's underneath you. And it's not like really that much of a pain in the ass. I feel like, you know, without a pogo seat, it's kind of up higher and it's just weird. I got friends that will only run it. But they seem to all live in flat places. Yeah.
When you're in Iowa, it's cool. Or Nebraska or something.
Yeah.
Or, wherever. Yeah. But yeah, man. So just back to that hoodie because I'm interested in stuff. How did you go? Like, how did you like when we make hoodies, like I call my screen printer guy and he sources the hoodies. Like, how did you be like, all right, I'm going to find the manufacturer? But your girl is in
she was in the fashion industry, but
did that help or did you just find your own thing?
She didn't help me on this. Sarah helps me out with a lot of stuff, like just getting through the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, not the hoodie. I ended up contacting a bunch of people, and unfortunately, I love stuff that's made in the U.S.
Yeah, hard to find.
It's hard to find, and it's really expensive, especially now.
I make hardly anything off our shirts because I can't find a U.S. hoodie that's affordable, but like our shirts, like I can absorb the cost. And we still keep our shirts $20, but I make hardly anything off because we use U.S. made shirts.
Yeah. So, and I think, it depends on what it necessarily is and the quality of it.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes T-shirts, it's like, if they're made in Mexico, it's like close enough to here.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's on the continent.
Yeah. But it's like, I feel like a T-shirt, I like shitty T-shirts personally.
Yeah.
So meaning like not really super heavy T-shirts or like, like a good quality T-shirt. I like my T-shirts to get shitty.
Yeah.
But I had this idea for like years. This is not like something that this is like 5 years in the making, So
this is what was going on when you were quiet on the internet.
Yeah, I was like, oh, dude, let me.
His tradition's like he's designing the end all hoodie, dude, the be all end all hoodie.
So I feel like for the most part, I had to design it first and then figure out how it was going to get made. So in that hoodie retails like $65.
Yeah.
So like when I ship them, I only charge like $10 for shipping. So it's like $75. But I feel like regular hoodies now are like that much.
Kinda, yeah.
If you were to get like a skate company or something.
Depends on the company, but yeah, they're anywhere from $45 to $70. Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to link up with a manufacturer this manufacturer was outside the United States, but not in China.
Yeah.
And
Pakistan.
So
I get hit up by these motherfuckers every day. You want to make gloves? I'm like, I try and make gloves. Can you do the Kevlar ones for me? They're like, no. And I was like, all right.
But the thing is like the quality of stuff that's coming out of Pakistan or the Middle East is really good quality stuff, especially leather goods.
Yeah.
So I had somebody that reached out to me, and I kind of like tested the waters with some little stuff to see if they could do it. But they not only manufacture leather goods, they also manufacture clothing.
Textile stuff, yeah.
So I was really adamant about like if they could do it, how they would do it, you know, and it was kind of like a trial and error type deal. This is actually the first one.
Oh, okay, so that's one.
This hoodie that I'm wearing here is the first sample.
Yeah.
And
are they screening it too, or you have?
No. I have my buddy Dave at Brass City Inc. up in Waterbury, who's an old hardcore kid.
Yeah.
Dave Duncan. We go way back. He does the screen printing for me, but the manufacturing is done over there. And the thing too is like, I feel like a lot of these companies over there are smaller companies, you know, smaller manufacturers. So they're looking out for you, but then you're kind of helping them grow in a way, you know. But this sweatshirt to get made here would be like, if I had it made in the US, dude, unfortunately, and I wish I could, it would be like $150, $160. And it's just not, you know, it's not, I feel like sometimes it's not worth, you know, the price.
Yeah. And there's a lot of motherfuckers out there that'll be like, oh, I'll buy US made. And then when they see the price, they're like, nope, buy China. You know what I mean? Like they don't put their money where their mouth is.
And you know, and I always go back to this thing where it's like, you know, if you were going to go and buy a fucking shovel, right? Yeah. And you had and you knew like, okay, this shovel's a $50 shovel and this shovel is a $30 shovel, but I know the shovel's going to break. Meaning like a shovel to shovel dirt, not like a shovel head. And you know, you'd be like, you know what? I could justify paying $60 because I know I'll never need another shovel again, but the other one's going to break. But a sweatshirt, it's kind of like, you know, you're going to pay $160 for a sweatshirt.
I mean, I get it. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not some like fashion company or like a company like that. It's like,
but you know what? I see plenty of dudes wearing Chrome Heart sweatshirts, and I think those things are that price or more.
Yeah. But
and I'm like,
but it's not just
why. Yeah.
I mean, the cloth that we're cut from, I guess, is like, you know, skateboarding and hardcore. It's like, I'm not going to gouge somebody just to make a hoodie. It's like, is somebody necessarily not going to, I'm sure there's people out there that wouldn't buy it because of where it was made. But at the same time, it's like, you know, how can you justify paying that much money for something, you know, where the quality is just as good as
it's a tough thing, man. I get it. Like I have that same struggle. It's like the gloves we made were US.
Yeah, and those gloves were amazing.
And the thing is the manufacturer doesn't want to make them anymore.
Yeah, because
it fucks up all their tooling. And every time we made a new run, I'd have to buy them new tooling. And then after COVID, they had lost a lot of their staff.
Yeah.
Not to COVID, but just to people not want to fucking work.
Yeah.
And so they're just behind, and they were like, these gloves are too time. And I have all these back orders, and I'm trying to find another manufacturer, and I feel fucked. And it's like fucking kill me because I'm trying to do another U.S. manufacturer, and it's like it's like hard. You know what I mean?
No, and I know it. I
can do them easily without the Kevlar, but the Kevlar is what made it fucking cool. Like,
and I think like, you know, I think that battle is a lot to do with a lot of stuff here in the U.S.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for example, I think a lot of manufacturers just aren't willing to fuck with doing stuff because they're, you know, it's like maybe 4 years ago, I'm like a stickler about Wassel tanks.
Yeah.
And I know there's companies out there that make reproductions, but the filler's not the same on them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like we all know, like people that are listening, if you know Wassel and Hap Jones tanks, and you're well aware of the filler on them has this like little square lip on the top of it, and you can't see it when a cap is on it. Yeah. But like I know that it's not. It's either a repop or it's an original. So I tried to find a manufacturer to make exact replicas of it, and I went to a bunch of places here. That forge and stamp metal and stuff. And they were like, oh yeah, you know, we could do it. The tooling's $20,000 and you got to do 5,000 tanks. And I was like, you know, and then I had somebody from,
you're like, dude, I ain't Revzilla, dude.
Yeah. I was like, how many people are going to, I was like, I'll have Wassel tanks for the rest of my fucking life, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and I know a lot of people that would probably take them and buy them, but not that many.
But it's also the same thing is that, and I'm not putting any names on things, but we all know that there's some places where you can get a $140 tank. If you do the US one, that's an exact replica, and you got to charge $250 for it. and we know the difference. But people like we were talking about earlier about something else. Someone's gonna go get that 141 or the 151.
Yeah, and it's like, is it justifiable? I mean, does somebody besides me give a fuck that there's a little square lip on the top?
Yeah.
There probably is a few people, but for
like 40 or 50.
Maybe in all of the world, but nobody else gives a fuck. But I'm like a stickler for
You're
it.
like,
And it's
man, if I could do a run at 200, you could do that.
And I will say this for anybody out there that's trying to make a replica Hap Jones tank. You can buy the replicas and fill the filler, and then you cut it out and you just get an A65 oil tank.
Yeah.
And then you just drill the filler from the oil tank and weld it into the other one, and it's a Hap Jones tank. Only difference is there's a little hole in the cap. But yeah, it's like sometimes you have to weigh your options, and it sucks because we're not giant manufacturers. We're not somebody like Paco or or like V Twin that can like pump out, X amount of these things and make up for the cost because they have, the world
as a distribution network.
And I feel sometimes like it's disheartening because there's stuff, and I'm sure you've run into this where stuff that you want to do and you just can't do it. You have an idea or you want to do something.
I don't get the money
to
like you said, like sometimes it's like not even the run of the product. It's like just the tooling and the design. Like you don't even have the money to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, it's $25,000.
To put up for it. I mean, it's
before you even make one thing.
Yeah. So I mean, and this manufacturer was willing to work with me and and made it and brought it to fruition, and I don't think I would have been able to do it any other way, man. They're actually working on, we're working on a new project, which this has been like 10 years in the making. I wanted to make a replica Buco D pocket jacket, which was the late 40s, 50s motorcycle jacket.
Yep.
And, I want to do it in horsehide, which is what they did originally.
Yeah.
And the replica jackets here, you'll find there's a few big names, leather companies out there, and some fashion companies that make them. They range.
I think one of them's 15 minutes down the road.
Yeah. and they're big. I mean, they're big money. They're like 12, 14, $1,700, and it's like, who in the world could do that?
Yeah.
So I recently. Reached out to them because they're a leather manufacturer as well and said, hey, can we, is it possible to do this jacket? And they're like, anything's possible. So they're making 3 samples right now to see as far as sizing goes and how they look.
Did you have to send them one or something?
I didn't. I was lucky enough to get my hands on one that I was able to measure and take photos of.
Okay.
And because obviously, dude, I'm not going to spend the vintage ones are like $3,000, dude. I'm not going to spend $3,000 to like take measurements on a jacket. Yeah. So, a friend of mine let me borrow one, and I took.
You got to watch out though. In those 1940s, like measurements are a lot different than the 2020 measurement.
No, this was a replica of it that was done in horsehide, but still a $2,000 jacket.
Yeah.
And so I did. Took the measurements and photos of that. And we're in the process of doing that, and again, they're I think these companies, what people don't realize as well, because people are so quick to judge companies overseas for making stuff, that they're so quick to judge and be like, I wouldn't have anything made in China. But the thing is like these companies, whatever it is that they manufacture, it doesn't matter to them whether they make 5 or 5,000, as long as their machines are working. And that's what I feel like is kind of the way it used to be here in the States, like back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. They were like, dude, as long as people are working and we're making shit, it doesn't matter what we're making. If we're making X amount or thousands of them, we're just
we'll put you in line. Yeah, with your job's on the roster.
Yeah. And I think that's, and that's a lot of what is going on because they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
They just want to do it. So, I don't love that stuff has to be made in in other places, but
so there's an option to do it here. That's
right.
what it is.
But I do like the fact that I can get something made fair that I designed, like these hoodies, and then have, and then be able to sell it to people at a reasonable, at a reasonable price, you know?
Fuck yeah, man.
And again, I would love to have it made here, but it's just not, you know, some stuff is just not,
it's not feasible,
you know?
It's not, it's not from desire or lack of desire. It's
yeah, but there's, you know, there's stuff where it's like for, you know, like the inside of the hood on these is lined.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, it's not like the hoodies that you just buy that aren't lined on the inside, you know, it's like heavier construction. It's, you know, there was a lot of thought kind of that process that went into it, you know.
It's functional and it should last longer.
Dude, I wear this hood almost every day, and this is like 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
And I wear it every day, and it's still, you know, I mean, it's got oil and grease and everything else in it, but you know, I run it, so.
Yeah. Hey, I saw you posted your old band is so why don't we get into for people that don't know you, let's let people think that they really know you and get personally, like, right. How did you let's hear how you even, I know you came from a skateboard and punk rock and hardcore background, like how'd you find your way into like alternative, you know, subculture shit, and then from there like into bikes and shit too.
So early on, we'll get into the bike thing after, so I won't go into detail as far as that, like, but growing up my parents were both into, you know, rock and roll music. That was their era. Yeah. And, you know, my dad was like a hot rod and bike guy, and, you know, like he was like a greaser. Had, you know, like wore, I have his leather, his shot leather jacket.
White t-shirt with a pack of cigarettes rolled up.
And, you know, my parents met at a like a drive-in, like burger place. You know, my mom had like a 57 convertible Chevy. So they came from that era. So, you know, I was always into music. I think like the catalyst for the first thing that I really remember as far as punk goes, or like the foundation of it, was my mom's sister, my Aunt Denise. She was born later, so she was like, grew up in the 60s, and she was like into mod stuff, and she was like into like the British invasion shit. And when we were kids, my cousin Zach, my uncle Leo was a biker and actually a custom painter and a body guy. And he did a lot of the club guys' bikes. We'll get into that after. But my first recollection of hearing music that didn't sound like rock and roll was her 45s, and I believe it was the Kinks. Okay. And it just sounded different. Like it just had this grit to it that wasn't like, you know, like rock and roll where it was like everybody was kind of happy. It had this edge to it. And so that was probably when I was like maybe like 7 or 8 years old. And then I kind of like started leaning more towards like English music, I guess, listening to a lot of her 45s and stuff. And then my dad had taught me how to skateboard when I was 6.
That's cool. But you probably have some like cool recollection of like picking up a 45. The insert in it and everything.
And just like the graphics on it. Like I remember seeing her records, and cause they were in my cousin's room, and it was like those 45s had like different graphics on them than like rock and roll. You know, like Capitol Records was like blue with the Capitol Records thing. It was boring. But like these like records, like, you know, I mean, I guess Decca Records and stuff had some, but these had like checkers and all this like weird kind of like psychedelic shit on them. And it was like, I was like, man, this is, you know, this is cool. These records are cool. And then, you know, so as I was skateboarding like that whole time since my dad taught me how to skate. I'm actually goofy footed. Funny story is my dad's left-handed, so he skated goofy footed, which is right foot forward. And I'm right-handed, and I skate my dad was regular footed and I'm goofy. And
I'm left-handed and regular footed.
Yeah. And so I learned how to skate goofy footed because I watched my dad skate, right? Skate. And he was left-handed. So anyway, and then as I started getting kind of into like skateboarding, that was the path to like getting me into like punk rock. Yeah. And I think like
watch like the old Vision videos, skate Visions and stuff. Yeah, Agent Orange. And shit,
and looking through really Thrasher magazine was probably the catalyst for
Puzz Zone, right?
Yeah.
Puzz
and it was
Zone.
just like seeing the stuff where it was like these like, probably like 1984, 85 was the first time probably 85 is when I first saw Thrasher magazine, and just seeing like the interviews with the bands, and then seeing like like these ads, like Misfits. First punk album or not even record tape I had was the Misfits Legacy of Brutality, and I stole it from a music shop that was down the street from us. I literally, do you remember like how cassettes used to have those like anti-theft?
Yeah. There's like a brick of plastic on it.
Yeah, that big long plastic thing. And I remember looking at the cover and seeing it in Thrasher magazine and being like, oh, this has to be good because it's got a skull on it. And it's in Thrasher magazine, and they made, Plan 9 made skateboards. So I was like, this has to be cool.
Bro, I still have that I had ordered from Plan 9. I still have my whole setup, my old board that was like the Evil Eye board. Oh, dude, it's got Tracker ultralights.
That's amazing.
Rapo 98 wheels. It's like a time capsule. I still got like Schmidt stick rails on it and shit. Like
amazing.
all that stuff.
And that, that was kind of the era. And so I went into the music shop, it was called. And I'm not proud that I stole something, but I put it behind my skateboard and I walked out.
Yeah.
And when I got it home, I was listening to it, and I had a friend of mine,
and it was American Nightmare came on. And you're like, this is just rock and roll shit.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I thought this was cooler than this, And I'll never forget. Like this little quick story is I had a friend, my friend Eli, who lived across town, but we had a mutual friend that lived in the neighborhood, and back in the day, like when you saw somebody that skated or wore Vans or had like a Bones, like a Steve Caballero shirt on, they skated.
Yeah.
There was no like fashion. It was like you didn't wear Vans unless
it was actually a magnet for trouble. Like motherfuckers would be like, hey,
they'd be
skate fag.
They call
or
us
whatever.
They call us radsters in my town. They're like, you fucking radster.
Oh yeah, we didn't have that. It was a skate fag. Pretty much.
Or I mean, I think that was like maybe like the general term was skate fag.
Yeah.
But yeah. So one day he was skating down the street, and I was like, where do you live? And he's like, oh, I don't live here. I live across town. We became really good friends. He was like one of my best friends, but I'll never forget, like his family was really religious. And I was like, oh dude, you got to hear this tape. So I let him borrow the tape, and he took it home, and I'll never forget, his mom called my mom and was like, your son gave my son this tape, and one of the songs on here is named Angel Fuck. And she was like, I do not approve of this.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know what your son's into.
Yeah.
And, I think because my parents were like, grew up in the rock and roll era and kind of dealt with the same shit, I'm sure, with their parents.
Yeah.
She was just like, okay, like he's obviously not like worshiping Satan or anything.
Yeah.
It's just whatever. So she was like, I'm going to throw this tape out. And my mom was like, no, like return it because it's like not your property, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she brought the tape back, and my mom like looked over it, and I was like, yeah, it's just like a punk band,
Yeah.
And that from then on, she was cool with like me listening to it. I mean, I did get into metal. I was like really into like Iron Maiden before I got into punk, but I think like it wasn't aggressive enough. And then when I, through skateboarding and seeing like aggressive, cause I think you're always chasing that that like high of whatever it is, whether you were into BMX or like snow, you know, skateboarding or snowboarding. It was always kind of like you wanted to. It was fast, hard, you know, and that was it. Like
dangerous, loud, and fucking all that shit.
And you know, and
it's the theme of everything, right, that we're involved in,
and that encompassed it. And I think, you know, getting into like metal, kind of like was the precursor. And I was like, I like metal, but like, and I loved Iron Maiden, but I was like, it's not hard enough. Yeah. And then from like there, I think, you know, I started getting in. You know, and then that led me down the pathway. But there was this one dude at the music shop, Fred, and he was like, you know, like thick black rim glasses. And he was like, went to art school, and he was like probably in his 20s, but he was really cool. Yeah, yeah. And he didn't necessarily listen to punk rock. I think he more or less listened to like stuff like Joy Division, probably, stuff, you know, like, or like dark wave stuff. He kind of seemed like that dude now thinking back. But he would always like turn me on to like the, you know, like stuff like, oh, if you like this, then you'd probably like this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was really cool. And I think that was kind of one of the things that allowed me to kind of like visit all these different parts of punk, you know, punk. Sure, yeah. Because I really liked Southern California skate punk. Yeah. But you know, I was able to kind of listen to a lot of other stuff too, like stuff that I probably wouldn't heard. But a really quick funny story. One day I go into the music shop, and I think there was a dude Larry that worked there too. One of them was on the phone, and now mind you, like I got like, you know, leather jacket with all like Misfits painted on it and all this shit and spikes and all that stuff, you know, and I walk in and he's on the phone, and I went and grabbed something and I brought it up. So, and I'm probably like, I want to say I'm maybe like 13 at this time. Yeah, yeah. And he says, hey, he's on the phone. He goes, oh, I got somebody here that I want you to talk to. So he gets off the phone. He hands the phone to me. And it's so weird, dude. It's like a surreal thing when I talk about it. But he hands me the phone, and I answer it, you know, and I'm like, hello? Mm-hmm. And he's like, and the voice on the other side says, hello, this is Glenn from Plan 9 Records. And I was like, Glenn Danzig? And he's like, yeah, this is Glenn Danzig. And I was just like, I love the Misfits. And I just handed the phone back. I didn't know what to do. Like, it was like, you know, but I think like the other thing too is I think with skateboarding. And
as much as people like Glenn has become like a funny thing or that dude put in work.
Yeah, he did.
He was doing that shit himself, like out of his parents' basement.
Yeah, yeah. And this was when it was in his parents' basement still, you know, I mean, this was, and this was like, you know, and it's like, yeah, you can goof on the dude, you know, but at the same time, like he lived what he did. Yeah, yeah. You know, and I think a lot of like the punk shit, that was identifiable for me being a skateboarder, and probably you as well, because like you know, you look at bands like, you know, I'll just use Iron Maiden, you know, and they're playing fucking like arenas and like all these people, but you know, when you were skateboarding, your idols were not professional athletes. They were a dude. Yeah, yeah. You know, like Mark Gonzalez or or like,
because at that time, even like pro skaters, it wasn't like pro the way pro is now.
No, definitely not. These dudes were just dudes that could skate really good. And you know, and they would do demos in your town, and you'd meet them and you're like, oh, that's just like an older version of like me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so I think like in that aspect, it was attainable, and these people weren't like icons. They were just like, you were like at the same level with them. Yeah, yeah. You know, and that's kind of what made me want to start playing music, because, you know, and I guess that's the cliche punk bullshit that everybody says, but, you know,
but it's true.
Really, like, you know, you get to meet the people that are iconic to you. Yeah. And it's not, you know, and I've met a lot, and, you know, my band played with a lot of bands that, you know, I was lucky enough to, listen to. I mean, I always say, you know, I go back to Jimmy G with Murphy's Law, and I tell him this all the time. I go, dude, if I could take a time machine back to 14-year-old Harley and be like, Jimmy Gestapo from Murphy's Law is going to call you on the phone and say, hey man, I miss you.
Yeah, yeah.
I would be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
and he does. He's one of the most solid motherfuckers around.
He is, and he's a great dude. But I think realizing, you know, and maybe you don't realize it.
No, it's the same thing. When I get a happy birthday message from like Vinny Stigma, I'm like,
yeah.
what the fuck is going on here? You know what I mean?
Wait a minute. And I get it that they were iconic people, but at the same time they were touchable. Yeah. Like you could go to Agnostic Front.
Yeah.
Show, or you could go, you know, you could go and see Murphy's Law or whatever. Yeah. And you know, then from there, you know, it kind of, you know, through the 80s and then late 80s, and I started, you know, getting into like, you know, like more of the, you know, like Fugazi, stuff like that, you know.
Let me ask you a question about skateboarding before we get off. Yeah. Where were you on the spectrum? Were you like a Powell dude?
I was I was a Santa Cruz dude, 100%.
Right. I started with Vision, but then I quickly went the Alva Zorlak.
The hardcore
Dogtown.
shit.
I went down that path. I was like, that's my shit right there. The punk rock skaters. The real antisocial.
Yeah, Bill Danforth. Eric Dressen, like those dudes. So I was. I started out, I never was I had a couple Powell boards, and this is like no offense to anybody out there that was like into Powell. It just wasn't my shit.
No. There was like a line in the sand. Like everyone was cool with each other because you were all skaters and you were fighting. You were fighting everyone else. But the Powell kids had that like flip hair, that little wing down in front of one eye.
The TH we used to call it, the Tony Hawk.
And like jams.
Yeah, and they were just like kind of like and I love Lance Mountain.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Tommy Guerrero. They're two of my favorite skateboarders, but I just couldn't get down with the, you know, Powell always seemed corny to me, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I love the graphics, but it just always kind of seemed. And then they came out with that Bonite shit, dude.
They were the ones that made it acceptable to like regular kids.
Definitely,
but they helped grow skateboarding like immensely. Like can't even
100%. And I think when you see the backstory, if you watch like Dogtown Z Boys, and you see, you hear Stacy kind of talk about the whole deal. You get to see where that divide, and it's weird because that divide came before us, but that divide was deep, dude. Like Stacy went with Powell, and then you have dudes like, you know, like Alva that just forged his own path. And then dudes like Jay Adams that were the same thing. They were like, fuck that shit. That's not us. Yeah. We're the fucking punk dude, or we're the rock star dudes. We're the punk dudes. And I think, and for me, I started.
Fred Smith works at my tattoo shop.
Oh, does he really?
Well, when he's there, he's there. He's still wild man. He's a complete wild man. It's funny as fuck. Like
I have a new old stock Fred Smith, and then I've never skated, and I have a new old stock Fred Smith punk size that I never skated in my collection of board. So
I'll get him next time you're around. I'll get him out.
Oh, dude, I would love to see him.
He's cool as fuck.
I remember seeing him. Did he used to? He used to hang out. I think I would see him every once in a while at Water Brothers, I think.
Yeah.
He would be there a lot.
Because he used to have a tattoo shop in Newport.
Okay, so I would see him like when we went up there. I would see him every once in a while. But still, like it's still that weird thing where you're like,
bro, it's so funny. Like when he was coming to work more, he had some legal issues and this and that, but whatever. I'd be standing outside and Fred Smith would come rolling up on his shovel head chopper, like ripping into the parking lot, and he's like, all right, dude. It's like, all right, dude, fucking do at it.
And that was
and that's like last year, you know what I mean? Like,
and I think that was like I think that was the Alva, like that was their mentality of kind of like everything. So I started out my first real board was and we talked earlier about it. I started working at a body shop when I was like 10, and I wanted to get a good skateboard. I think at the time I might have had a Nash board or some cheap board.
Executioner.
Yeah. Probably. It's like 85. I
Everyone,
think.
yeah.
So I started working at my cousin's body shop in the morning where my dad worked, and just cleaning up the shop, and it sucked. Like my friends were home watching like skating or like watching fucking cartoons, and I was cleaning.
Yeah,
body shop. But so I saved up money, and then I ended up buying a Hosoi hammerhead.
Okay.
Like right after he was on Alva, like the early, I guess it was Santa Cruz made the boards. It was Hosoi skates, but I think Santa Cruz had made the boards. So I started with the hammerhead. And then I always kind of stuck with Santa Cruz early on.
Yeah, my first board, I don't know what it was called, was a Santa Cruz, but it was almost like freestyle size. It wasn't a full size deck. Yeah. It was before that, and it was just yellow, and it just had the Santa Cruz logo.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I don't know what it was called, but that was the first board. And then my second one was a Vision Agent Orange.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a great board. I have one of those in my collection too.
And then a Gator. Yeah. Then a Gator.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think everybody had Gators.
Yeah. I had the blue and white one.
Yeah. Yeah.
The swirls were blue and white, and it said Vision in black.
Yeah. I think I might have had the blue one at one point, but I definitely had a Gator in the mix. But I think I kind of stuck with that, and then for first couple boards, and then after that, it was like I was full on Dogtown, dude.
Yeah. Dude, one of my best Born Free memories was going up to the Dogtown setup, and it was just Jim Muir working in this like 10 by 10 booth by himself.
So
I was like, dude, what's up? I was like, you fucking ruined my life. And he's like, fuck yeah. Here's some shit.
Yeah. I mean, and I think my first Dogtown board was a Mickey Alba.
Okay.
I want to say it was the Malba board. It could have been that Stonefish board. I might have had a Suicidal board somewhere in there.
I have some shit hanging around.
Yeah.
That's all.
That was like the first thing that I saw when I walked in there was a Suicide. That and the obviously the Possessed the Skate.
I got the Agnostic Front.
I saw it. Okay. Yeah, of course. I do have the Possessed the Skate picture disc.
Nice.
That I had when I was a kid, and one side has the goat on it, and then the other side is just all pictures of the Dogtown team, like little.
Oh, that's cool.
Pictures.
I don't even remember that one.
No,
I don't remember that. That's awesome.
Next time I pull that stuff out, I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah.
But I kept that. So I went down that route, which I think led me more into punk rock as well. With stuff, obviously Black Flag, Circle Jerk, Suicidal. It was like the first time I heard Suicidal, it like blew me away. Like I was just like, I saw Your Mommy and Your Mommy's Dead. I was just like, this is fucking, this is crazy, and it's great. I was like, and I think the other thing too was skateboarding and punk rock was, and I know this sounds fucking cliche and everybody's, but it was like, I think it was like an escape too from like normal, like I was the kid that like always, again, my parents would be like, oh, you want an earring? Like, yeah, we'll get your ear pierced. Like, they didn't really care, and it wasn't like it was lawlessness in my house, but it was just like, hey, if you want to express yourself that way, then go ahead. And I think like
they weren't squares.
Yeah.
So and like, I whatever.
Think, and they couldn't relate. They were like, what the fuck is this music? But but
still, then you put on American Nightmare. They're like, all right.
And that's the thing. They and maybe it bridged the gap for them where they were like, I get it. Like, he's not going to go out and kill people because he's listening to this music.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to think that any of that shit would and I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's not like listening to suicidal tendencies is going to make you worship fucking Satan.
Although at that time they were trying to push that narrative that if you listen to like heavy music, that was like PMRC days.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, Al Gore's, Tipper Gore and all them trying to fucking censor music.
Like I watched a video not long ago with like Ice-T.
Yeah,
with a body count shit.
Oh yeah, and that was even later.
I know, and I was like, this is fucking so weird.
Yeah.
You know, I think like the first person maybe to get on that whole bandwagon, and I could be wrong, was what's his name from Twisted Sister?
Yeah, he came out hard again. Like he was schooling him. Like,
yeah. And
people don't realize like how articulate and well spoken and researched he was when he came out.
Yeah. And the crazy part about it is like he didn't do drugs or drink alcohol either. He's just like wild fucking dude.
Wild dude.
Not that has anything to do with anything.
Did you know he was Don Fury's roommate? So he knows all about hardcore.
No, I didn't know that.
He lived with Don Fury when Don Fury was recording all those like New York hardcore demos and shit. It's fucking wild.
I never got the chance to record. Steve, who played guitar for Front Towards Enemy, my band was in Yuppie Side.
Okay.
And they recorded with Don Fury a bunch of times. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Yuppie Side out there, but which was like a New York band. And if you've never heard them, actually a really good band to listen to because they were kind of like did their own thing.
Yeah.
And Jesse Jones, the singer, is just an amazing human being. But I did not know that. That's crazy to think.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
You know, I often listen to like the Dictators, and I every time I listen to the Dictators, just bringing up something that's kind of off. But I listen to Dictators, and I was like, there's no way Kiss did not hear the Dictators.
Oh yeah.
You know, it just
Kiss used to play like CBs and stuff. They played with some punk bands and shit.
Yeah.
So they knew what was going on.
You know, it's just it's a funny thing, but. You know, as far as bands go, I think, you know, there's a couple bands really, for me, you know, punk bands that really like opened up my eyes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know, without saying this, probably mostly anybody that listens to hardcore out there that's listening, but the Bad Brains, like, I remember the first time I heard the Bad Brains, and I just remember being like, and then finding
just trying to make sense of it.
It didn't make any sense.
You're like, what the fuck is going on?
It was like the first time
crazy.
I remember when I was younger. Yeah, this is probably like shortly after Kill 'Em All came out. I used to hang out with like older dudes that were like, they were like, in my town they called them freaks, but they were like metalheads.
Yeah.
And those dudes were probably like 3 or 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
And they lived in my neighborhood.
When 3 years made a big difference.
Big difference back then.
Yeah.
And I remember those were the dudes that got me into kind of listening to metal and Iron Maiden, Dio, and Judas Priest and shit like that. And you know, like Judas Priest was like hard back in the day, but like I listen to him now, I'm like, man, that wasn't hard. Yeah. But I do remember when one of the dudes got the Kill 'Em All record. And I remember sitting in his room, and he put this record on, and I was like, and I remember being like, oh, dude, this new band, Metallica.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody then knew how to say that shit, especially out here. And he put it on, and I remember just being like, is this at the wrong speed? I was like, is this on the wrong? What the fuck? I was like, this sound. I couldn't wrap my head around it, and it took me a while to actually wrap my head around like thrash metal. Yeah. I think shortly after I started listening to Suicidal, it kind of made sense to me.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't really make sense because metal wasn't that.
Yeah.
You know, that didn't exist.
I remember a couple of things like that bridging the gap for me, like Slayer, I just fucking blanked out on the name. I can hum you the whole intro. It's one of the most crazy intros. But what's one of the not the first Slayer record? What's the second?
Rain and Blood.
No, before Rain and Blood. Holy fuck, dude.
I'm trying to think. I don't listen to Slayer. Like I never listened to Slayer, so it was just too fucking heavy for me.
Yeah, but like hearing Rain and Blood, but also the one before it.
Hello Eights.
Hello Eights.
Yeah, okay.
That intro.
I don't even know how I pulled that.
This is so fucking hard. Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Slayer. It was just, again, like I always thought like the words, everything was the imagery was kind of foolish on a lot of that stuff, but the music like it was fucking because
hard.
it was nothing like you heard.
Yeah.
You know, and it's weird to think like now everything's been done. Yeah. And it wasn't that long ago that certain shit still wasn't done. You know, like Bad Brains, you're just like, you know, like those dudes were almost too good of musicians to play fucking hardcore punk. It didn't make any sense.
Even like, you know, what's weird if you go back and like whatever, it's weird now because it's like in this world, in the modern world, modern times, like some of the people that you looked up to back in the day kind of let you down. But if you go listen to old Dead Kennedys, you're like, these dudes were like musicians.
They are musicians. It's the same thing.
This is fucking sonically fucking interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the same thing with Fear.
Yeah.
Fear, so like good. People like you can't sleep on, like they were real musicians.
Yeah.
They like these dudes could play fucking saxophones and shit, you know, or like Trump. You're just like, you had no, they didn't play punk because they wanted, because that's all they could play. They chose it. Yeah. I mean, you know, they had no business playing punk rock. Like Fear had no business playing punk rock, but you know, it is what it is. So I think there's, you know, there's a few iconic, obviously Minor Threat, you know, Bad Brains, Black Flag. I liked a lot of the Southern California skate rock bands, like Aggression, like Nardcore bands. You know, Aggression's probably one of my favorite bands, which they don't get a lot of cred, but when you listen to Aggression, it's sonically skateboarding, if that makes any sense to you. I don't know, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's certain bands that you were just like, they took the you know, almost like surf music, where they took the feel of, you know, Dick Dale being in a tube and making that sound on it was like almost the same thing with, I think, a lot of the Southern California skate rock bands, like Agent Orange and some other bands where it's like
Faction.
Yeah, Faction. These dudes literally took skateboarding and made it a sonic thing. Where if you could listen to it, there was nothing in the world that you wanted to do except ride a skateboard. I
get it, man. I get it.
You know,
and you know, but even like, I don't know, it's like weird, like, because I got into a lot of that stuff, but then it was like the way you were saying, like metal, like wasn't hard enough for you. Like I felt like that too. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, this stuff is good, but it's like I need it like grittier and heavier.
Yeah, and I think you know, like we were saying, like the road that you chose as far as skate companies. I think it was the same thing with music at that point, because I think like Suicidal like opened up that whole like pre-thrash metal, where it was like thrash music, which some people are familiar with, some aren't, but it's like this weird thing where, you know, it's like Excel or like Beowulf or like any of the Venice bands. No Mercy, like those Venice bands that were like borderline, they were punk bands, but they were like really kind of the forefathers, I think, of like, you know, modern thrash, crossover, you know, and I listened to that stuff. I just think for me, like when I heard Slayer for the first time, I was like, oh man, that's like real heavy. I don't know if like it's almost too heavy for me. You know, and I think at that time I kind of went the route of like more like the later SST bands, you know,
Blast and stuff.
Like Blast and shit like that, like noise, I guess pre-noisecore shit, kind of like that stuff. And I think that was kind of maybe the direction that people went.
I'm just laughing because when you say late SST, I just remember buying The Process of Weeding Out and being, what the fuck is this? This ain't Black Flag. I probably would like it now if I gave it a chance, but back then I was like, this is fucking horrible.
It's funny because fast forwarding a little bit to like hardcore era, like I'll briefly go into like how I got into that stuff, but I remember buying the Absolution 7-inch. Okay.
Yep.
And I remember going to I didn't drive at this time. My mom had to take me up to there was this place, Brass City in Waterbury, Connecticut, and we would go and buy records there, and they would get all like the, like New York stuff, and they would get it right away. They were kind of in the vein of that.
Yeah.
And then there was another place. What was the other place? The Professor's place, and he was this weird dude that would like bootleg people's demo tapes and shit and sell them. So like, I didn't really like to go. Phoenix Records, that was the name of the place. But anyway, I remember getting the Absolution 7-inch, and that's like when I was into like, like Youth Crew shit,
yeah.
And that was big. Like
that we were like the same era, because like we got into the punk stuff, and then the Youth Crew shit hit probably like in our late teens or mid-teens, and like that's what I super identified with that for a long time.
Yeah.
Like,
and that was me too. And and I think that was even, and I think maybe the reason why I gravitated towards it is because growing up in Connecticut, so many of those bands, I was in it. I was 15, 6, I just got into high school, and it was just like, it was attainable.
Yeah.
And these dudes were dudes that, were friends of friends that were in bands like that, whereas other bands, you either,
they're across the country.
Yeah, and you could only see them if they came on tour or, whatever the case may be.
But anyone could go to a Youth of Today show in New England back then.
Yeah, because it was
right there.
Right there.
Playing all the time. Yeah.
And Absolution, I got it home, man. I was like, oh, dude, I heard this fucking album's, or the 7-inch is great. I put it on. I was like, this fucking thing's on the wrong speed. I turned it to the next speed. I was like, this thing sucks. Put it in its sleeve, never listened to it ever again. And somehow I was going through my records at my parents' house. My mom put all my records in a plastic bin, and a few years ago I found them. And somehow, dude, I have 3 copies of the Absolution 7-inch, and I have no idea because I never
probably
listened
got
to
them in trades or something like
some bullshit. But yeah, and I think like, back then, and again, a lot of people say the same thing, but you either bought it because somebody said it was good, or you bought it because of obviously the artwork that was on the cover.
Or they were a band that was thanked in a thanks list of another band that you liked. Yeah.
Or they were on a record label like SS. There's so many.
Because at that time, like pretty much I'd buy anything that came out on Revelation.
Yeah.
Or what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's when they were in New Haven, Connecticut. Yeah. I mean, anything that was on Revelation. But then you would get, every once in a while, there'd be like a fucking shitty, and maybe it was a record label trying to branch out, or it was friends of theirs that they put on or whatever, but you would get something and
a stinker,
you'd be like, what the fuck is this, man? This is, and I feel SST Records was kind of one of the,
they were getting a little experimental there at the end.
Yeah. Which is cool now when I listen to it. But I also couldn't listen.
But I have a joke because like Wino's a good friend of mine now. But I was like, yeah, dude, I bought that St. Vitus record. I was like, what the fuck is this? He goes, you don't know how many. He's like, we used to play so many shows with Black Flag because we were on SST. But like people would be so like, what the fuck is this? We're coming out in bell bottoms playing fucking stoner music. Like, but it's so funny. Yeah,
and I think a lot of it you couldn't relate to, and
I love it now. Like
Yeah, and I think unfortunately towards the end of like the punk era, once you put I personally feel no matter what it is, once you put a label on something, or it becomes a stigmatism. And it takes away the original meaning of whatever it is, because then it becomes this elitist like thing where it's like this segregated weird thing.
Youth Crew was super fucking elitist,
and it was like it was like, dude, if you didn't have a fucking varsity jacket, you weren't. There was the dudes that had like,
dude, I'm gonna show you something in that room. I still have an old Intent to Injure varsity jacket.
Do you?
Yeah.
So it was like if you didn't have, it's like, you had to have the high top Nikes and the fucking Levi's that were pegged at the bottom,
or camo pants.
Yeah, or camo fucking cargo pants,
or fucking basketball shorts.
Exactly, and like the varsity. I remember like going to shows, and the dudes that were the dudes had varsity jackets. Like you had a Youth of Today varsity jacket. You were like, oh man, I can't afford that shit. I'm only 15 fucking years old, and I think like a lot of that just destroys scenes. And I heard an interview with Henry Rollins not not long ago, and I think it was an older interview, but he was saying like, you know, towards the end when he joined Black Flag and they started doing kind of like, you know, Black Coffee or like After Damage, like that stuff. And like he grew his hair long and, you know, he would be playing shows and people would be like, you know, you fucking hippie. And, you know, and he's just like, dude, it's now it's just like so cliche to be a punker. Yeah. You know, that it's like, so you kind of had to move on. And unfortunately, unfortunately the hardcore scene was very cliquey, you know, especially like going into the early 90s where it was like, oh dude, like, you know, those are the vegan straight edge kids. There's the straight edge kids and there's the vegetarian straight edge kids and they're the vegan straight edge kids. And then you had the Krishna fucking, you know, it was like these levels of like, you know,
Youth of Today fucked it all up.
Yeah. Funny thing is,
as much as I love that fucking break down the walls and fucking all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't them. It was just the people following it.
Yeah. And that was a thing, I think. But it oddly enough gave you something to be like, man, like if you wanted to feel like a part of something.
Oh yeah.
The hardcore scene was like, and I don't think
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I don't think it conveys today. But like if you wanted to be a part of something and felt like you were making a change. Yeah. The hardcore scene was definitely like, for me, and I think a lot of other people, it brought that out in you where it was like this unity of, whether you're straight edge or not, or and everybody, I guess, went to shows back then. But I feel like it was some kind of this message that you could get behind that made sense, and I'm not saying straight edge.
No.
I'm just saying the hardcore scene where dudes were on stage saying, dude, you don't have to be a fucking rock star. You don't have to be anything. Like you could do whatever you want to do. Pick up a fucking guitar and just do it.
What was great about that time was you had that, and then you also had like Cro-Mags or Agnostic Front that was just like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like just fucking street music. Like, this is shit about like fucking life, like street. Like,
and it was real.
And that's why I gravitated to that more than metal, because metal was like all fantasy, like, you know what I mean? And like this was like, yo, this is fucking hard times. Hard times. I was like, that's fucking real.
Fucking dude. Maximum penalty.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I mean, like, and that's, I think that's why I loved that era of hardcore as well, because it was like, I think a lot of it was prior experience that these dudes I remember being in the city and like seeing a lot of these dudes. You see Harley Flanagan and you're just like, man, that fucking dude, like that dude will kill me. Like these, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just using that.
Yeah, I know.
Because you knew from the music, I was just using him as an example, but because you knew from the music what these dudes were conveying was real. Yeah. Like they were in the streets, they were living that shit. It wasn't some fucking they were they were doing this shit because they loved doing it. Yeah. It wasn't like they were getting paid millions of dollars or anything. Yeah. They were telling their fucking story, and you could see it when you went to go see them. Yeah. You could see that aggression and that and I mean the first Cro-Mags album,
unfuckwithable. It's like,
same thing.
Top 5.
Agnostic Fronts. Warzone. Yeah. Fucking. All these bands. And
these are all top 5 records for me.
And I think like growing up on the East Coast, you identified with maybe not in. I grew up in a suburban town. Yeah. And it wasn't like I wasn't rich. Like we were lower middle class. I lived in a small 2-bedroom house with my parents. But there was something I can identify with because it wasn't like, it wasn't these dudes that were talking about fucking the beach and shit. It wasn't like, these, and skateboarding allowed me to go to these, not going back to that, but allowed me to go to a lot of these places early in life and be independent because I was like, grab my skateboard, get some money, get on the train, as long as we can make it to New Haven, where I grew up, if we can make it to New Haven, then we can get on the train and go to the city. Boston was more difficult because there was no easy way to get to it.
No, we would have to take, like, I remember me and my friend Pat Burke, we did the whole, like, I'm going to sleep over Pat's house, and Pat said he was going to sleep over my house. We were like, I think we were 15. We took the bus to New
Greyhound.
York. Went the bus to New York to go see Sheer Terror and the Nihilistics at CB's. And then we slept in the Port Authority for the night, and then got the first bus back in the morning.
Yeah,
you know
and I think,
and dude, that's when New York was like
fucking hard. Like,
bro, like I think they found like someone was dead or something in the Port Authority the night there. Like we literally had to be like, all right, I'm gonna sleep for 2 hours. You stay up. Yeah. And we took like fucking things because it was fucking gnarly.
Yeah, it was gnarly. I remember going to when we would go down there to skate, and we would go down there often to skate. So. Two of my friends were the only two that my friend Bob, who I knew since I was like, 10 years old. And I met him, same deal. He was skating down the street and I was like, you skate? I skate. Let's hang out. He lived by my grandfather's house at the time.
There was something great about those times where if someone had like a fucking hardcore t-shirt on, like you instantly became a friend. And then because there was only a few of you.
Right. And the weird thing is like you could be in like, I remember I was skating in Enfield, Connecticut, at the mall that was there. There used to be these flat banks outside. They were like planters. Okay. But they were like maybe like 4 foot high, perfect flat banks with like hips on them and everything. So every once in a while we would go up, or if my mom was going shopping, I would tag along and I would go skate. And I remember like meeting a kid there. And he had a Tony Hawk shirt on. I'll never forget. He had like a turquoise Tony Hawk shirt. And I was like, you skate? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, do you have your skateboard here? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, go get it. We'll go skate. And he was like, where? I said, dude, there's these banks outside. They're killer. And I remember he was from like, I want to say he was from like Virginia or somewhere. And he was like up visiting people. Yeah. And I never seen the fucking dude ever. We skated, had a session for probably 3 hours, became like best friends, never seen the fucking dude ever again in my life. Yeah. You know, and it was just this cool thing about this like camaraderie. And I think it's the same thing when you, like you said, when you seen somebody with a hardcore shirt on, you were just like, oh, you listen to fucking, you know, whatever it may be. Yeah. But me going to the city, I was, you know, because my friend Bob and my friend Oz, is his nickname Oz, John Oswicki. He had a license because he was like 2 years older than me. And the weird part about it was his nephew, Ernie, used to skate with us, but Ernie was only 2 years younger than him because Oz's sister was way older. Okay. So Oz's parents had him late, and then his sister had Ernie early, so we would all skate together. But it was weird because Oz was Ernie's uncle. Yeah. And you know, Oz was able to take us to like New Haven, then we would get on the train. But I remember, you know, and I say this all the time, but I remember being, you know, in the city with no money and just being at Washington Square Park, and we would have a marker and write tricks for bucks. And dude, we would do skateboard tricks with a hat out to get enough money to get the train back to Connecticut. Yeah. You know, but I remember sleeping down there and tying my shoelaces to my ankles. Like we would tie our shoelaces to our ankles because bums or homeless people would steal your sneakers off. If you slept on a bench, dude, they would, you know, you'd slept with your head on your skateboard and then your laces tied to your ankles, dude, because if they tried to take your sneaker off, they couldn't get it. Yeah. You know, so it was definitely like a gnarly time to be there, but it was also a great thing, you know, where you could see these dudes just walking down the street, you know. My band's first show.
You probably remember this, like when it was a fucking adventure just to get to the show. Because you had to navigate some fucking areas in New York, and you were like, shit.
I mean, I remember being on the train and ending up. We were trying to get down to the banks because the Brooklyn banks were actually like the brick banks at the time, and was not a skate park, and that was the last place you skated. So we would usually get off at Grand Central, and then we would skate downtown and hit all these spots as we got downtown. But the banks you would skate last because of the bum piss and pigeon shit. And if you fell there, dude, you were done.
Yeah,
Like it would just ruin your day. So like that was always the last stop. So we would stop there and then usually like hit like a McDonald's or Burger King and like wash up somewhat and get some food and then head back. But I remember being on the train and you know, this is probably late 80s, early 90s and missing the stop, dude, and ending up in Brooklyn, like Williamsburg. And you know,
it wasn't what it is now.
No, and Port Authority cops looking at us and going, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah, dude, we did that once and we got off the wrong place and we got up and like literally like homeless dudes were like, yo, you need to turn around.
Yeah.
Like they were concerned for us. They were like, what are you guys doing here? Get back on the train. Get on the next train out.
You know, I said Port Authority cops, but I meant the Metro
transit,
Police. The transit police. But I remember one time, one of them coming up to us and literally walking us up the stairs, crossing the street, getting on the northbound train, putting us on the train.
Yeah.
And being like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You're going to get killed.
Yeah.
You know, and
it was wild.
But that was part of the whole ambiance of being, you know, and we would come to Boston every once in a while, but I feel like
it's just a little too far, even though it's only like a few hours. When you're like 15 and no car, it's just a little too much.
And there's no public transport. You know, taking a bus from Connecticut to Boston takes a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember doing it, but we didn't do it that often. It was not until, you know, a few of us had cars and shit that we could load up in the car. Even getting to like Rhode Island, you know, was difficult. But I mean, I attribute that a lot to life, you know, because it's like when you're responsible for being, you're like in charge of your own fate.
Yeah.
If you're like, dude, I want to get here, I have no means to get to somewhere. It instills these values, I think, in you that, you know, you carry kind of on for the rest of your life, where it's like, you know, I worked at a skate shop and I ran a skate shop in the early 90s. And one day I was just like, fuck this, dude. Why am I making this dude all this money? I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah.
And literally borrowed some $1,200 from my parents and started my own skate shop. And I had it for 16 years, you know? And I think
when we first met, I think you still had it.
Yeah. And I think like not having that background to, you know, which I think essentially goes back to, you know, hardcore for me, where it was like, you want to start a band, you just buy a fucking guitar and figure it out and just start playing shows and do it. There's no catalog to how you do it, you know. I mean, and you know, essentially, you know, starting the band, you know, later on, I mean, that's kind of, it was just a bunch of friends that played music and
fucking
did it and did it, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, hardcore
back then fostered like being involved. So you there was a lot of people that were just kind of there that were fans, but a lot of people tried to book shows or were involved in like making zines little underground distribution, like setting up a little shop at the show, like selling records.
Zines were super. I mean, zines were so rad. I wish like that. I mean, I know it's back a little bit, but I wish that whole thing came. And regardless of whether it was a skate zine or a hardcore zine, I think there was a. Oh man, I had a friend of mine. My friend Brian used to do a zine. What the fuck was the name of it? And it was like a hardcore zine. He was from like the next town over, and I can't remember what the name of it was. But it was cool because it was like, you know, you're getting out there, you're taking photos yourself, you're talking to these dudes and maybe doing interviews with them, or nothing was unattainable and nothing was kind of, and you know, and I forget about that a lot. You know, it's like, you know,
that's why it's cool to do shit like this, because you're probably remembering all kinds of shit that you haven't thought about in years.
And you know, and I think also it's just like you forget that mentality of where you came from sometimes, where it's like, you know, especially when you're older, you just kind of like are like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, and it's like, you know, that whole creativity of just kind of like doing, you know, the DIY shit. Yeah. You know, back in the day where you were just like, nah, I fucking, you know, it's like, you want to put out a record, like, and you don't have a record label, like you just find somebody to press the fucking record, and then you go in the studio and you record 4 songs, and then you fucking press a 7-inch, you know?
Dude, I remember like when my old band, our first 7-inch, like I went to Voc Tech High School, and I was in graphic arts running printing presses and shit. And I was like making the cover. I was just like cutting shit out, pasting it. Like before it was all computerized. It was like you had like transfer letters and shit. And I was like, all right, we got to get a cover. I was like, all right, I guess I got to figure out how to make a cover. Like, you know what I mean? And you did it.
And that's what it came. When I was in high school, one of my really good friends, through skateboarding, my friend Damien, we were always into the same shit. He was into, we were into skateboarding and hardcore and whatnot. And we were in a graphic design class. This dude, Mr. Daly, and he was like a ball buster, but he was like a really good dude.
Yeah.
And he was about as tall as he was wide. He was like this really short, massive dude. And he was just like a ball breaker to push you to do stuff.
Okay.
He was like one of those dudes.
Yeah.
So, and I remember setting up type to do like business cards and all this stuff. But what his deal was screen printing. And I remember bootlegging hardcore shirts when I was in high school and selling them, me and Damien. And we would do like Gorilla Biscuits, Youth of Today. I remember doing like, we did like a bunch. He recently found, somebody had one of the screens that we did in high school that he did with, it was like Calvin and Hobbes, but it was like Hobbes with his arms crossed, and it said like Connecticut Hardcore. Yeah,
that was like such a hardcore thing, was to put like Calvin and Hobbes
on everything. I just recently saw on Instagram.
This is before everyone was putting them, Calvin pissing on a Ford logo.
Yeah. Way before that shit. It was always like it was like Calvin with like X's on his hands or something. And
I think even Sick of It All used that something. I think I remember, or maybe it was like a flyer or something. I just remember something with that and Sick of It All.
Yeah,
it could have been a flyer.
Like Calvin and Hobbes was huge, and I don't know where it came about or why, but yeah, I remember like that was our hustle. We made, oddly enough, I was into like hip hop real early too.
Yeah. They went together.
I remember the first time. I remember when Sick of It All had that like KRS-One
announced
shit
the record,
on the Sick of It All 19 whatever.
Well, I mean, if you remember, Beastie Boys' first tour on License to Ill, when they popped, it was Beastie Boys, Public Enemy, and fucking Murphy's Law.
Yeah. So wild. And
I had Jimmy talking about that on one of the episodes, and it was like it started out as a club tour, and then like Beastie Boys just got huge. So by the end, they were doing stadiums.
Yeah. Crazy. Wasn't he on like that tour with Madonna too? Like, wasn't Murphy's Law up for a second on that tour with like Beastie Boys and Madonna?
That might have been part of the same tour.
Was it?
That might have been a leg of that, but
yeah,
I don't know. But it's just fucking wild. You know?
Yeah. And so we made beads, like Africa beads at the time, like hip hop shit, and we painted like people's jean jackets and shit.
Yeah.
And made bootleg hardcore shirts and
quite industrious.
Recently, I don't know if did you ever hear a band? You ever heard of this band? They weren't really all too popular. This band In Your Face. I think it was like a bunch of New York hardcore.
I have that 7-inch.
Yeah. So it was a bunch of dudes from other bands. I think
it was kind of like a side project.
Yeah, I think they were from Queens, most of them. Maybe. Yeah. And I don't remember offhand who was in it, but I recently found my parents going through their stuff, found a picture of me in my bedroom with a bootleg In Your Face shirt because I love that band and I couldn't get a shirt, so I made it in fucking graphic designs class. And behind me is a fluorescent pink Steve Caballero clock.
Wow.
Because like at one point they used to do. And I had it for a long time, but they used to do like all the seconds, like Powell would make clocks out of them. Like they drill a hole in the center of them, like if they were warped or some shit.
Okay.
And I remember my mom, I think, bought it for me for Christmas. which wasn't the same era, but it was in my room for a long time. But yeah, in that photo, I have like a high top.
Yeah.
And I have a white shirt with a blue print, which the in your face. I think the design on it was like maybe like a dude that got knocked out or something.
It was like a dude with a weird thing. It was like a cartoon dude. Like the dude looked fucked up, or he looked like he was putting something in his mouth. Or something.
Something like that.
That's kind of what I remember. Yeah,
that's a shirt, and I was like, oh man, and I made like we used to make bootleg hip hop shirts too, like Public Enemy, and Tribe Called Quest, Beastie Boys, all that shit, you know. But I think that like spawned that whole like do-it-yourself thing because nothing was unattainable, you know.
And now you're making custom hoodies, dude.
I know. Yeah.
See,
and only see
where life leads you.
Yeah, right back to square one.
Square one.
Yeah. So anyway, and then you know,
I'm back. I'm making bootleg tradition cycle stuff back then.
Dude, I hope you do. That would be awesome. And you know, and then early '90s, I started. You know, Steve. Just quick about the band. Steve moved because I know you asked me about it. Steve moved up from New York, and I met his cousin because I did graffiti. Obviously, everybody fucking
that was the world back then, yeah.
And I met Steve's cousin through graffiti, and he was working at a tattoo shop, and then Steve came up and started working at the shop, and then we just kind of were into kind of the same thing, and then started the band. But that was like fucking 30 years ago, dude.
It's
crazy. And then we got picked up by Wreckage Records, their other label, which was Exit Records. Our first show was crazy, dude. It was at the Continental in New York, and we opened for Bouncing Souls and Yuppie Side.
Yep.
And I'll never forget it because Rabies was sitting on a stool on the stage, and I was so fucking nervous, dude. Like I was just like, you know, like here it is. Like we practiced like 6 times, dude. We made the demo tape, and then like we're just thrust into this like
now you're playing the show
club. And I'll never forget Jesse Jones.
How old were you roughly?
It's probably like 19, maybe somewhere right around there. And I'll never forget Jesse Jones before the show, who's the singer Yuppie Side, and he's from England, and he comes over and he tells me, he says, listen, dude, and throughout my career of singing, you know, and being in a hardcore band, I use this trick so many times. He was like, listen, if you forget the lyrics, act like there's something wrong with the microphone and just mouth shit like without any vocals coming out and play around with the chord, because it'll look like there's something wrong with the microphone. And by the time the sound guy runs over and gets you a new mic, you will remember the lyrics.
Hey.
And sure as shit, dude, I forgot some of the lyrics, and I used that trick while we were on set. But I remember Raby sitting on a stool on the side of the stage, and I was just like super nervous because I knew who it was. You know, and I was just like, my God, man, like, you know, and I remember distinctly not getting close to that side of the stage because I didn't want to hit him. You know, I didn't want to like bump into him or anything. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot of us were cut from that cloth, and you know, I think it's weird that now that you'll meet people that weren't into, you know, I'm so used to people being either into skateboarding or punk or hardcore, and like you'll meet people and they're like, no, I never really listened to that shit, you know. And for me, the motorcycle thing was, man, from day one. I mean, you know, the story with that was my dad had a chopper before I was born. He had a lot of bikes, but right before I was born, they lived in like a apartment on a corner in a brick building, and you know, my mom was like, this is no place to raise a kid. So they were like, well, we're going to buy a house before the kid's born. So right before I was born, my dad sold his bike.
What was it? Do you remember?
So that bike at the time was he had a trike, a 45 that was, he custom molded the seat. It was purple metal flake, had a Sportster tank hung Frisco, had a narrow lengthened, like early, 33 millimeter front end on it. I think I had a 19 spool on the front, and then my dad made like clear like fenders on it. It had like,
that's cool.
Had like not Supremes. It had like Kragers kind of on the back of it. And then the fenders were made out of clear acrylic, and it was like chunky purple metal flake. And actually, when I was a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts when I was really young, and one of my what the fuck was that? The Pinewood Derby shit.
Okay, yeah.
My dad had purple metal flake left over from his chopper trike, and we painted it that color.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so my family is predominantly on my dad's side Italian, so everybody's named Anthony, including my dad. So they knew they didn't want to name me. They didn't know whether I was going to be a boy or not, but they did not want to name me Anthony. So my dad sold his bike, and my mom jokingly said, "Name him Harley, that way you always have one." and I was born, they named me Harley, and it was, I have pictures of me when I was a month old with like a Harley patch on my dad sewed like a Harley patch on like my
onesie or whatever.
Yeah. And so that was kind of instilled. And then like my uncles were into bikes, and cousins, everybody kind of in my family was either like into cars or bikes.
Yeah, that's cool.
And my uncle painted a lot of the club dudes' bikes when early on. That was kind of like, he was like my, I guess, entrance into kind of like the whole, realizing like chopper scene and kind of like that whole thing, because like I would be over my cousin's house, my cousin Zach's house, and he'd be in the kitchen like drawing and like doing like, like cutting stencils for like paint jobs that he was doing, and I would just be like, dude, that's so sick. Like this wizard, like fucking, crazy shit. So it was just a natural transition, I think, from skateboarding and that, that creativity into building motorcycles. I always kid that choppers are like the skateboard retirement.
Yeah. Hardcore retirement, skateboard retirement. Yeah. All of it. Yeah.
So
my thing on that's similar, but it's not retirement. It's like it's the next step of loud, fast, dangerous, and do it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. It is. It's not like retiring into it, but yeah, it definitely.
It's actually getting into something more dangerous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to go faster. Growing up riding dirt bikes, it was like kind of the.
See, I never rode dirt bikes. Like I didn't grow up like with that. I wish I did. You know what I mean? Because it sounds.
Yeah, I like when I was.
It sounds like a very dumb thing to get into as a 50-something-year-old dude, but like.
No, it's not. It's not, dude. Come to my house, dude. I got dirt bikes at my house now. Come by. We got like 13 acres, dude. You could rip around. It's fucking insane.
I'm down.
But you always have invitation to come down. But yeah. So it was like just kind of a. Easy, it's like you can't really customize a fucking dirt bike, dude. You could put graphics on it and shit, but you can't customize it. You can't make it. You can't necessarily make it your own. So I think just the brainless transition into it is like going like, oh yeah, like I can fully customize it, and and that for me was enough. And then growing up, when I was like 4, my dad had like I don't remember this, but in the basement of the house, there was like a full chrome panhead, like chrome Springer, chrome frame, like, full on. And he sold it for like $400.
Yeah.
And this is early set. My dad's like from that 60s era of bikes where, you could go to a police auction and buy a panhead for $400.
Yeah.
So like, like when I was doing bikes, he just didn't understand. He's like, you fucking paid what? Like,
he didn't realize how much shit went up.
Yeah, because he was like, that's fucking.
Because then he had to face the facts that he's like, man, I had like 10 of those that I sold for like $200, $500.
My dad had a 65 GTO that he bought brand new. Okay, with the 3.2 setup on it, and it was automatic. He had it automatic so my mom could drive it, and it was like this turquoise color. And he sold it in 67, dude, for $800 so he could buy a Riviera. And I would just tell him, dude, the car's worth like, if you would have kept that car, it's worth like fucking 90 grand, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it.
Yeah.
You know, we talked earlier, you know, I'm not a knucklehead guy.
Yeah.
I'm a panhead guy.
Yeah.
Like I always like panheads. I just like the way they look. And I think for me, not getting off subject, but kind of in line, I think,
there's no outline here. We're free form, dude. Wherever you want to go.
You know, I think for me, the iconic chopper is a panhead.
Yeah.
You know, the era of choppers for me, I mean, I know there was knucklehead choppers out there and there was other stuff too. But I think as far as Harley goes and big twins, panheads are it. That's like my shit. I love panheads. So, but I had an opportunity to get a knucklehead. And one day,
knuckleheads have over the last 15 years have always proven to be a smart investment. They ain't going down.
Yeah, no, they're definitely not. But I'm not a big fan of knuckleheads. I think, and I don't want to talk shit about knuckleheads, but I think it's like there's a lot of hype behind it. You know,
they're a beautiful motor, but there's a lot of upkeep. There's a lot.
Yeah. They're not. You know, if you like my dad's era of you know,
they
bike
would dispose of people.
Yeah, they're like fucking piece of shit.
Boat anchor, yeah.
Like, why would you get a knucklehead when you could get a panhead?
Yeah.
You know, by this time, I mean, we're talking 60s. Panheads had already been made long enough that you can get one cheap enough. You know, like my dad, like I said, he would go to police auctions and buy bikes for complete panheads for $400. You know, running bike. And so for me, you know, I do like knuckleheads.
Yeah.
I just, it's not my thing. So one day I had the bike I told you that I got in the accident when my buddy's brand new pickup truck coming up here, like right here to pick up a bike. I needed a bolt to hold the bracket down for the distributor on this Ironhead Survivor. And so I went to Fastenal, which I don't know. You guys must have Fastenals up here. They're everywhere. You know, it's like I guess it's like a Granger if you don't have Fastenals. So I walk into this place to go get a bolt, and I hand the bolt to the guy, and the guy, he looks at it, he goes, "Man, this Spanish dude." But he talked like when black people make fun of white people. Yeah. Like talking, like that's the way his voice sounded. And just kind of a straight-laced Spanish dude. Yeah. You know, glasses, like somebody, like, you know, he's at work, and so I hand it to him, and he's like, "What's this for?" I go, "Oh, it's for a bracket for a motorcycle to hold the distributor down." He goes, "What kind of motorcycle?" I go, "An Ironhead, 69 Ironhead, I think it was, or 67. And he goes, "No way, my brother's got one." I go, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he bought it in like 74 or something." I go, "Oh, that's cool. He's still got it." He goes, "Yeah. He goes, I got a 47 knucklehead chopper, candy apple red with ghost flames." And I was like, and I just like stopped for a second, and I was like, "What?" And he's like, yeah, I got a 47. I owed it since 1974. My brother sold it to me when he got his Sportster because it wasn't fast enough. And I go, "You still got it?" He goes, yeah, I still got it. I go, "Well, what are you doing with it?" And he goes, "I'm going to get it back on the road one day." So I said to him, I never asked him to buy it, dude. That wasn't like my intention. I just wanted to know what he was doing with it. Yeah. So I would see him like,
you don't meet someone randomly with a 47 knucklehead very often.
Yeah. Or like,
ever. Yeah.
You know, it's like when you know,
especially
I think,
it's like a regular ass dude.
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean?
right.
Like usually you know everyone who's got a knuckle, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's in my town, you know, where
it's like you've never seen this bike.
I never seen him.
Yeah.
And he, you know, and it's one of those things where I think like we've all done it when you go to buy old shit. Like inside you're like fucking, like when you go to buy like a good lot of stuff, or you go and find a bike, you know, like the shovel, you know, the shovel we were talking about, like you go and you're just like, "Oh fuck, this is good." But you're like, "Dude, I can't let this dude up on me knowing that, you know, like you can't show your cards, you know?
Poker face.
Yeah. And so I didn't pry really much. I said, oh, dude, I'd love to see pictures of it. And he goes, oh, I got pictures of it somewhere. So I would go in every couple month or every couple weeks to get something. And I finally told him, I said,
did you really need stuff, or were you just going in to talk to this dude?
I really needed stuff.
I was like, how devious are you being?
No, I was not devious. That's not me.
I know, I'm just fucking with you.
So I would go in and buy stuff. And I said, listen, dude, you're killing me with this shit. I said, if you want to get the bike running, bring it to my shop. I said, listen, you take care of me here all the time. I won't even charge you, I said, well, I got to change the plugs, put a battery in it. I said, buy the stuff. I won't even charge you labor, dude. Let's just get this bike on the road for you again,
Yeah.
It doesn't deserve to be sitting in a basement type shit. I said, if you don't want to sell it, I'm not pressuring you, man. Like I just, it should be running, and it kept going on and on and on and on and on. And he wouldn't bring it. I said, dude, I got to go and pick this fucking thing up, man. Like, no, I just don't have the money to, he had kids in college and stuff. He's like, I just don't have the money to do. So finally one day I get a phone call from him and he's like, hey, this is Jose. Listen, man, I got to get rid of the bike. I go, okay, I got to see it first, So, because I hadn't seen it. I didn't lay eyes on it.
You don't know. Yeah. It could have been in a fucking under 2 feet of water. In
you know how it is out here, dude. You leave something in a fucking shed, it's done.
Yeah.
And so especially where you're at, dude, all the fucking salt water from in the air and shit. So anyway, so I go and look at it, and it was a 47. It was legit, matching numbers. It was in a knucklehead frame, but the frame had been notched. It had a panhead in it at some point. And he bought it from this place that my dad used to go to on the turnpike near where we live back in the day. So I knew it was like a legit bike.
Yeah.
And he had changed the front end. It had a springer on it with a spool. And he was like, I almost got in an accident with my girlfriend on the back of it. So he's like, he changed it to like a I think the first year of like banana caliper, like 72, narrow glide or
big
something.
Fucking donkey fucking brake. Yeah.
But it had a 21. It was like laced to a 21. And I was like, so unfortunately it didn't have knuckle tanks. And what he wanted for it, I was like, listen, dude, like I'm not going to beat you up or pull this bike apart. But if it had knuckle tanks, I would be willing to pay what, they're pan tanks. And it didn't have like a knuckle oil bag. It had like an aftermarket oil bag in it. And, there was some shit. And I said, but the core is worth what, and I said, it's cool. It's painted fucking super cool. So we made the deal and I paid a good amount of money for it. Not like knucklehead money now. And,
how long ago was this?
This was probably 8 years ago.
Okay.
And,
they were wild then, but they were you could still find.
They were a ton. They were attainable. I think like for a chopper they were in around 12 grand. I think 12.
Now people are asking that for a fucking clapped out motor. That's not even together.
Yeah.
That's like
fucking
what
crazy.
the fuck is it?
It's crazy, dude. And I'm. This is something that people should know. If you look at the numbers of how, like, I know there's rare years of knuckleheads.
Yeah.
I know the war years are rare. I know 36 and 37 are rare and blah, 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 all that nerdy fucking shit. Because I'm not into the nerdy stuff far as years go. And I understand it for collectors, but whatever.
But a lot of that has to do that's restoration shit.
Yeah. There was 100 and there's something like, don't quote me, dude, on the number, but there's something like 100. And again, I know there's rare years. There's something like 108,000 of them made. 100 and it might even be more. 100,000 knuckleheads made. That's not rare, dude. That's like that's like the what's the Sex Pistols EMI song where he's like limited edition with an unlimited supply. It's like, maybe they're, I'm pretty sure that generator shovels are rarer than knuckleheads because there was only 4 years that they were made or something.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's why I'm not getting rid of that 69.
Yeah. Right. Some days people will be like, "Oh, dude, shovel." It's like Gen shovels, dude.
Yeah.
They're
They're already right now. That's like they've gone wild the last few years.
Crazy.
Wild,
Everything's gone crazy. So,
it's going to collapse.
Yeah,
that's
it
what
is.
we're going to watch out for. It's going to collapse, which is good because we don't care.
Yeah, because we're
I'll
still
just buy
here.
them cheaper.
Right, because we're still here.
Yeah. But like people, like if you're doing it to flip it, you better get rid of it soon.
Right. Yeah, but we've been here, dude. We've been
as much as I bitch and groan and gripe
like an old fucking man.
I know, like my guys that work here, like this dude don't even want to do this half the time, and it's like I do. I'm not here because I'm getting rich.
Right.
Yeah, I'm here because I love it.
You love it, but you do it
because I can't not do it.
Yeah.
That's really why. It's like.
So we come to it.
Then I'm like, look at the logistics. Like, what am I going to do with all this shit?
Yeah. That's where I'm at. I'm always like, like my friends of mine will be like, dude, where you been? I'm like, oh yeah, I had other shit going on, whatever. Well, like, what's up? I'm like, I'm fucking selling all this fucking shit. Fuck all this shit. I'm done with chopper shit. I'm done with fucking motorcycle.
I'll keep like 2 of them.
Yeah. It's the same story, dude. And then I go in my shop. I'm like, oh man,
this is rad.
I kind of like this shit. Like I'd never get this shit ever again. It's just because I've been in the game so long. People are like, how many fucking gas, like how many Wassel gas tanks do you have? I go, I used to buy them for like $10 a piece, dude, $20 a piece. I snatch every single one of them up. Like, why don't you sell them? I don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not rich.
Yeah.
I had one dude I don't mean to get off the subject, but I had one dude
We're on the subject.
We were at a swap meet and I was with my wife. And my wife's super rad because like she likes the fact that I'm into bikes and shit. And she goes to swap meets with me and all that shit. And we were at a swap meet and I was talking to this dude. I was carrying like a straight leg. I was carrying a straight leg panhead frame, and some biker dude comes up, typical biker. He's like, "Oh shit, you got a panhead frame?" Yeah. And we start talking. He's like, "What do you got?" And I was like, "You want me to list all the shit I got?" Yeah. And he's like, so I list it to him, and he goes, "Dude, you're like a fucking Harley Davidson millionaire." And I was like, I kind of am. I was like, not money or value, but in the volume of shit that I have, dude, I'm like, I am, I would say not in monetary value, but in volume.
Yeah. In rarity.
Yeah. And in like, collect, like, yeah, dude, I'm like intangible shit. I'm a tangible.
Because I know you got a lot of weird like Roth shit and stuff like that too. I know.
I mean, my collection goes deep, dude.
Yeah, I know. I have a bunch of Roth stuff too. I don't keep it here.
Yeah. Of course, you wouldn't keep it here, but
but nothing like you. Like, because I know you were going deep with that for a long time.
Yeah. I have some really, really cool stuff. Some which won't even see the light of day just because of the matter of it. I mean, obviously if you come by, like we'll go through it. But some of that stuff,
dude. I got some of the stuff. Like I got some of the old full size posters that I can't even unroll anymore because there's little splits in them, and I was like, what am I going to send this to an archivist? They're going to be, what the fuck is this? It's $700 to frame this. I'm going to be like, exactly. I can't do that right now. You know,
you're like, dude, but those posters are fucking worth like. Dude,
are they? I don't even know what they're worth anymore.
They're worth fucking. People are paying good money for all the Roth posters, like $400, like some even more if they're in good shape. But like I have some shit that's like mine, and I'm not. And again, like I'm not the dude that brags about shit.
You're not bragging. You love it.
Nobody will. Only the people that are into it, that respect it, and the people
understand,
and the people that are friends of mine will ever get to see this shit.
Yeah.
And some of it doesn't even see the light of day.
Sure.
But I mean, I do have like original Roth drawings and original Robert Williams drawings and shit like that, which is close to my heart. And I met Robert Williams not long ago, and it was like just as weird. That was a weird thing. That was like fanning out. I was like, oh my God, this
was he a good dude?
Super good dude. Yeah. The only way I can explain it is he is like your uncle from Kansas that you never met. That's the dude. He's just that dude where you're just like, this is the nicest fucking guy. And he's got this like Midwest accent.
Yeah.
And you're just like, we were out in California doing my show. I had met him, and then the next morning, Sarah and I we're waiting in line he reminds me of Jimmy Stewart, which is really weird. But like, if you know who Jimmy Stewart, he's kind of that same dude, way cooler than Jimmy Stewart. But anyway, we're standing in line and they're sitting eating breakfast and we're waiting to get breakfast. And he yells over, he's like, "Hey, Harley, Sarah, come over and sit down with us and eat breakfast." And I was like, Robert Williams just said my name. You know, it's just like this weird moment in life. You know, so anyway, you know, so, you know, my collection, I say the same thing because you're like this disgruntled dude, but you would never get rid of it. But going back to the whole knucklehead thing, we made a deal and you know, I'm looking at this bike. I gave him a price and he agreed on it. And he really wanted me to have the bike because, you know, he knew how much I respect bikes and shit and he wouldn't change it.
Yeah. And how much, you've talked to him multiple times about it.
I put a Springer on it. It had a Springer originally. I put a Springer back on it and a sissy bar and shit. So I changed a few little things, but you know, the meat and potatoes of it, intact, I left it as is. And so we make the deal and he goes, he agrees to it and he goes, there's just one thing before we go forward with it. And I go, okay. And I'm thinking, oh dude, here we go. You know, what's the deal? He goes, I'll sell it to you, but you can't pay me all the money at one time. And I was like, what? He's like,
layaway?
He's like, yeah, you can't pay me. I'll give you the bike. You could come and pick it up, but you can't give me all the money at one time. And I was like, that's weird. I go, can I ask why? He goes, because I'll spend it on stupid shit. And my wife's going to get really pissed off at me. So for like 8 months, I was this dude's banker.
Just breaking him off.
Whenever he would call me from random weird places, dude. And I would meet him. And I still have, there was like notes written on like napkins or like a receipt from somewhere. And it would be like the date and the previous amount, how much I gave him
and then
what the balance was at and his signature. And dude, I have like, I don't know, dude, there's gotta be like 14 of these things.
Which makes it even better. Like, not that you're ever going to sell the bike, but if you ever did that story, I'm like, here's the receipts, bro. Like,
dude, I couldn't pay him all. And I had the bike.
Yeah.
So it was the weirdest thing. And he would just call me up and be like, I need $1,200 for an exhaust on my car. I got to pay the taxes on my house. And dude, and Sarah and I would just meet him wherever and I would just hand him money. and then I go, you know, I had the bike and when I picked it up, going back to my dad in that era, I wheel this, you know, the bike in and he looks at it and he goes, that thing's a fucking piece of shit. He goes, and I go, he goes, how much did you pay for it? And I tell him how much I paid for it. And he goes, oh dude, you got fucking ripped off. And he goes, wait. He goes, is that 60, you know, he's like, is that 61 cubic inch or 74 cubic inch? You know, I go, oh, I go, no, I go, it's 61 cubic inch. He goes, oh, that fucking thing's a piece of shit. You got ripped off. He goes, you got fucking ripped off. They seen you coming, dude. And I was like, Dad, it's not the 60s, dude. You know, like he just couldn't wrap his brain around it. And it wasn't until...
You had to like pull up Chopper Swapper and be like, look.
He still didn't. He still was like, that's bullshit, dude.
He goes, they don't go for that.
And it wasn't until...
I wish your dad still had a lot of bikes. I'd go talk to him about it.
I know, right? Because to him, he sold his chrome panhead for $400, dude. That was in the basement.
Yeah.
It was worthless shit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my friend Jersey John stopped in the shop. He was in town, which some people are probably familiar with, the Pickers. Really super talented dude, like uber talented. But he was up in my area and he had a bunch of like late model to him is like 40s and 50s shit, dude. Because that dude's into like fucking bicycle shit, you know.
1908.
Yeah, and he makes all fucking carburetors. It's super, you know, like I said, super talented. But he was like, I got 3 like milk crates of some fuck shit I don't want, dude. I'm just gonna drop it off at the shop. So he comes by the shop, and now my dad relates to him because he's seen him on the TV show, you know. Yeah. And at that time he wasn't on all the time, but they would call him up because he was like the dude. Yeah. And he comes in and he goes, oh, dude, this is the knucklehead. I say, yeah. He goes, oh man, this is bitching. You know, he sits on it and shit. And I might have started it up for him. And he goes, you know, how much you get it for? I tell him how much. He goes, man, you stole that thing. He goes, you know, this motor alone's worth $12,500, dude, you know?
Yeah.
And then my dad made the connection at that point that this stuff was really, you know,
Popping,
like it was really worth that much money.
Yeah.
But because to him, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't
yeah.
worth any money. And really that's the only reason why I have a knucklehead. Otherwise, dude, I don't think I would have a knucklehead.
No, it's weird, man. Cause I remember, do you remember like when you first started like really getting into bike stuff, you could still get them for like, not nothing, but you could get them
for like $7,500.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I remember like 5, 6.
Yeah. I mean, a complete running bike.
Yeah.
You know, that was like nice. Probably like either. I remember restored knuckleheads being like $7,500, and me being like, man, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Because like you could get like a chopper for like $5,000.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember,
Wild.
and I know like it's weird to say because you sound like some old dude,
But you know, it's like, it's funny because that's when you realize we've been in this shit for a while.
yeah, but it's you know, the other thing too, I think for us is it's relatively gotten expensive in a short period of time. Not like your dad where it took like 40 years for it to get.
So they crept up and then they kind of held at like 12 for like a while.
Yeah.
And then they just
They just skyrocketed, and it's crazy, dude. I've had like Japanese dudes offer me like
ridiculous
money, and I won't say. And the funny thing is, dude, I still get text messages and phone calls from Jose, and he lives in like somewhere. I think he lives in Texas now.
Okay.
And he'll just randomly text message me like, "Hey, Merry Christmas. Do you still have my knucklehead?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. I'll never get rid of your knucklehead." "Oh, well, if you ever want to get rid of it, let me know because I want to buy it back." You know, or don't, you know, and I'm like, no, dude, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell it.
He got the first right of refusal.
Yeah, of course. But it's one of those things I think where it's funny how, you know, and getting back to the whole, you know, that whole hardcore thing where it's like, you know, and I'm not harping on it, but just saying like things that have a soul or have like a common camaraderie between people hold people together.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, this dude was willing to sell it to me because he knows how much I love motorcycles and old choppers, you know.
It was like that back in the day with records. Remember
Yeah, records, like record collectors.
But it was like some records were like unobtainium. They were the knucklehead of records, right?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't. They were the, you know, because there was only like 500 of them.
Yeah,
there wasn't 100,000.
Chungking record.
Yeah, Chungking.
I remember going into the record store and they had, I kicked myself in the ass, but at Brass City they had one hanging on the wall forever, and I remember it was like $250, and I remember I would save up money, but then I would go and I would buy like
something else,
like 10 7-inches, dude, you know, like up front and fucking, you know, like side by side and all those bands, you know, and I would be like, oh man, I really want that record. And now it's
wild. Yeah.
You know, that's one of the records that I remember being expensive when we were kids and I couldn't get. And then fast forward now, or like, you know,
but back in the day, like you would trade records with somebody and I remember there were records like that I didn't really want to get rid of, but I remember someone like really want it. I'd be like, all right, man, here.
Yeah.
Because you fucking love this thing so much. Here, dude. Like it's yours. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing, but it was like the bond was like kept it kind of together, you know?
I had a what was the second New York hardcore compilation?
Where the Wild Things
Are. I had like a test print.
Yeah.
On I think it was on yellow vinyl. And my buddy wanted that thing so bad. My friend Dave.
Dude, I had the Together comp.
Did you?
On gold. Oh, man. The one ones where you had to trade a G.I. Joe for.
Yeah.
I forgot how I got it. I got it from someone. And I like...
Yeah, you had to send in G.I. Joe to
get that one.
And I remember... And he wanted it, and I didn't want to really get rid of it because I liked it. Yeah. And I think I had another copy of it that was on just regular vinyl. And I ended up trade in something for them. And then recently, like I went online to go look at the record, and it was some weird test print that they sent out to shops for them to listen to, and it was like fucking $1,600 or something.
Dude, I wish that I had sold some of my hardcore records during COVID because it was going crazy, and like people had all that extra money and they were paying ridiculous. I don't know if it's the same now, but like some of the records I have, I was like, bro, like I could just fucking pay off my truck, pay off fucking this other shit, like, you know, and still listen to the music.
Buy a knucklehead.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'd have to sell some deep
vinyl. Yeah,
deep vinyl on that.
Yeah. My wife Sarah grew up listening. She's a hardcore chick. She still goes to shows, and I don't much go to shows anymore. Occasionally, but she goes quite frequently. Yeah. And she won't let me sell any of my records because I like, you know, like to me they're not shit. Like I remember a friend of mine a couple years ago was like, "Oh, dude, you got like the first pressing of like the Judge 7-inch," and I wasn't like never really into Judge.
Oh, see, I love Judge. Yeah.
So you either are or you. I feel like all the Boston and Massachusetts dudes were into Judge more than anybody else.
Yeah. Because we were just like into hard shit. Like when that's literally one of those records like Cro-Mags and stuff. When because I got the Judge 7-inch from Porcel from his label. Like when I pre-ordered it came. So I got it, never heard it. And I remember, I still have a memory of putting that fucking record on and just being like, what the fuck? And like getting chills and like that weird thing in your stomach all the way up to your throat. And I was like, holy fuck. Yeah. And you know, it's still like, I just got it right now thinking about it. Like, and I still have that imprinted, you know, it's fucking wild.
And correct me if I'm wrong, dude, but I think Judge was bigger in Massachusetts than anywhere else. I don't
know, maybe. I don't know.
Every Massachusetts dude that I know and have known that was into hardcore always was like, Judge is one of my favorite bands. And I don't know why I never got into Judge because I liked heavy shit. I liked Cro-Mags. I liked Maximum Penalty. I liked, what was that? Trying to think what was the Wrecking Crew. Yeah. Like heavier shit, like the chuggier, some sheer terror stuff I like. Yeah. But Judge, I don't know. Maybe it just was at a time where, I'm probably sure it was when I went to the record store and bought a bunch of records and liked something else much more than I liked that. At the time I listened to it. It was sometimes
you got stuff in a mass.
Yeah. And you're like just like, oh dude, fuck, I love this fucking, you know, the 7-inches. I remember like, there's a band called Pagan Babies.
I remember them. They're from Pennsylvania.
From Philly or Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I think they were from
And
Philly.
I got and I bought it because it had like graffiti on the cover, and I was like, this cover's sick. And I got so into those fucking dudes that like, those guys in Token Entry I got way into at that point. And I remember
I still get hair up my back hair, like, or whatever you say, like the chills when on the Token Entry on the breakdown of you know, it was like
which on
the
edge,
that breakdown.
Fucking, I was listening to that on the way here, dude.
Yeah.
God damn, that is such a fast song, but that breakdown, dude, is fucking
the sing along. And
my god,
thing's perfect.
And when there's darkness and the lights are dim, oh my god,
good.
Dude. It was like the iconic sing along, breakdown sing along.
I remember those shows, like what mayhem that was, like just fucking so many kids stage diving that was like pig piles and a fucking mess.
I remember seeing Token Entry, and I remember Tim Chunks. There were so many people. It was at Wetlands, and he was running across
the crowd,
the crowd, because there were so many fucking and when everybody was singing along, you could feel it, dude. There was so many people singing along to the shit. It was so fucking. But at that time, it's funny because I don't remember anything else that came out because I was so into fucking Token Entry and that Pagan Babies that I was just like so focused on it that everything kind of went out the window. But Judge and
see, I was into the darker. I was like into the darker, so like Judge and like.
The heavier shit at that time.
Negative Approach.
All that stuff. Negative Approach is great. But, and a buddy of mine was like, you got like the first pressing. I was like, yeah, you want it? You can have it, dude. And my wife was like, dude, you're not giving that away. Like, to her, it was like this unattained. To me, I was like, fuck it, dude. I don't know. It's just a 7-inch. But
I remember getting that package from Schism. It had like a zine of fucking the
dude,
7-inch.
I still have fucking Schism Records t-shirt, dude.
Yeah.
Original t-shirt.
Yeah. Because they only did that in like Project X.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I got the original Schism Records. I still have some of my shirts. Wide Awake was one of my favorite bands. They're a Connecticut band.
Bro, did I ever tell you my Tom Wide Awake story?
No.
Bro, I was on like, I don't know what I was. I think it was the first Gypsy run, right? And I'm at we're at riding.
Yeah.
And we're at a bar. I think it was Gypsy. It was a motorcycle run.
Yeah.
And me and dude sitting next to me were just drinking and fucking talking. And he was like, somehow like hardcore came up. He's like, yeah, I used to have a hardcore band. And I was like, what was your band? And he was like, oh, it was Wide Awake. I used to sing for Wide Awake. And I looked at him and I go, you lied to me. And he starts laughing. He's like, well, and I told him I was an old ITI and stuff. And he's like, oh shit, I remember that 7-inch neighborhood. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. And like, we were just banging shots. And I'm like, it's kind of funny, like to be banging shots with like old straight edge. We used to be straight edge.
Like, no, shit. I mean, obviously we grow up, but Wide Awake was,
it was good.
That was the epitome of Connecticut hardcore, I believe. Yeah. I mean, a funny story is just going back to that whole thing is Sarah was, we were in the car one day and she was listening to Shelter, and I never really got too much into Shelter, but Shelter was a great band, and it just wasn't my trip at the time.
I didn't get into Shelter.
And I could see why you wouldn't get into Shelter, but and I was like, oh, dude, Youth Today is way better than this, like
I still stand by that.
and then she was like, oh yeah. And then as far as music goes, I think Shelter was better. They were better musicians at that time and playing like,
but Break Down the Walls and Close My Eyes are so powerhouses.
But she plays Youth of Today for me. And although it was great, my 14-year-old self remembers it way different than I do now.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh wow. I was like,
I don't know though. If I put on Can't Close My Eyes,
you can't not sing to it.
Yeah,
you can't fucking.
Still
you can't not.
Yeah.
You
or
can't
Break Down the Walls.
Break Down the Walls is great. But yeah, it's funny how. I think for us it goes from one thing to the next. Like, it's like skateboarding and then this and then eventually like you just maybe it's having an old soul or whatever the case may be. It is, but you gravitate more towards the underground or the less popular.
Well, yeah, and what I say is the difference now compared to when we went through, not to be like whatever the old man, it wasn't cool when we were doing it.
Definitely,
like you
cool.
literally, like I remember being constantly in fucking altercations because it wasn't cool. Like dudes would be like, "What the fuck are you?" Blah blah blah. Right. Fuck you, dude. And like fucking, and then like there was something about it. Like you had to really want to be part of that. Like, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't cool. It wasn't fun. Like it was fun when you were at the show and you were with the like-minded people, but during the week when you were just at school and you were fighting,
you were not fucking
you were
cool.
fighting like fucking
everybody.
Guidos and fucking jocks. You know what I mean? Like
they were fucking
like on the regular because they were like, the fuck, I got a little easier with Youth Crew because like
because you had like
when you had a champion hoodie and army pants on, it wasn't as big of a deal as when you had like fucking Liberty spikes and fucking
sure
and whatever, but
dude, I got my nose broken in 7th grade. I like because of it. Every day this dude, he was like on the soccer team, I can't even remember his name. I would wear my dad's leather jacket and like punk shirts and shit, and I got kicked out of school for like, I got suspended for a week for piercing my ear with like with a safety pin. And I was like walking, and every day the dude would just talk shit to me. You ugly motherfucker, fuck you. And finally one day I had enough of it. And I went to go take off my dad's leather jacket. And which is a motorcycle jacket. And that one wasn't painted, but but still I had the spike bracelets and all that shit. And dude, he sucker punched me in the nose and broke my nose. Right. And I remember getting up from the ground, and by this time the teachers, it was before school, it was right before school, but there was teachers outside. They came over and grabbed me. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the most punkest fucking thing ever. Cause like my nose is bleeding and I'm spitting blood. Cause the blood's going in my mouth, dude. So I'm spitting blood at everybody that I'm walking by. Yeah. And I'm just like, I spit blood at him, at the dude that broke my nose. And then people were just like, he's fucking out of his mind.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting suspended for it, dude.
Yeah.
And I remember just walking in, and there was like lines of kids waiting at the door, because at that time you couldn't go into school until they opened the doors, until the bell rang. And I was just walking by people going, fuck, this is the fucking punkest shit ever. Spitting fucking blood, and I think like, you took your bruises and
took you lumps.
Yeah. And I think like, even when we started getting into the motorcycle scene, it was somewhat like that.
Yeah. It wasn't like, I got into it before the TV shows. And then the TV shows blew shit up, and then it got a lot of people involved that normally wouldn't. But those guys were buying the wide tire fucking 180. Well, I remember when 180 was a big tire. Then it went to 2, and then it was like 250,
and then 300. Fucking stupid.
And it was just like a pissing contest. So who could have the most unrideable bike? You know what I mean? And but yeah, man, it wasn't cool. Like, but like, it was weird. So weird to me later in life when like punk was like regular shit, like kids that would listen to punk like that. They were like cool kids in school and shit.
Yeah. Same thing with skateboarding.
Skateboarding.
Like I have friends of mine that their kids are like in skateboarding. They're like, oh, he's like one of the most popular kids in school. I'm like, that's because he skates.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
Wild,
but I feel like somewhat, to some degree, choppers were, or bike shit was the same. And, it was. And like, cause you were the young kid that was walking around a swap meet, and the old dudes, they wanted to test you at first and be like,
it was way more like that. Like the shops, like rest in peace, Lumpy, like from Choppers. You go in there and be like, what the fuck do you want, asshole?
Right.
That's how when you walked in, it was a litmus test.
It was same thing with
and I would snap back at him, and then he would laugh and be like, how's everything going, kid? And like,
but that was tattoo shops too.
Yeah.
Like when you started getting tattoos, the only places when I started getting tattoos, the only places that you could get a tattoo was a shop that a biker or a club guy owned.
Yeah.
And when you walked in, they would give you so much shit that you had to prove to them that you wanted a tattoo.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, get the fuck out of here, kid. You don't want no fucking tattoo. You don't even know what the fuck this shit is about. There's the door. Fucking go.
Yeah.
And then you would leave, and then you'd come back and be like, I got to get a tattoo. And they'd be like, get the fuck out. I told you to get the fuck out of here. Until the point where you wore them down.
Yeah.
Like I told you the story with Kelsey Martin.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, you wear them down to the point where they're like, this kid,
he likes it. Yeah.
He either likes it or he doesn't know any better to fucking not like it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the era, I think, man, where you couldn't get it was like illegal to get neck tattoos.
Or I remember like if you had a neck or throat tattoo or a face tattoo, you were fucking serious.
Serious.
Something was up. You were a serious dude.
Yeah.
And it's
like the only dudes.
Now dudes get stuff scribbled on their face and
first tattoo,
and it's like fucking, and it's dumb shit. It's like, yo, that ain't even fucking gnarly, dude. It's like you got like, it looks like you passed out at a fucking sleepover party.
Yeah. It's like single line fucking bullshit. Yeah. Like, I mean, Steve, he was the first person I think that I knew. I think that had a neck tattoo, but he was from like New York, and he was like in New York bands and shit, and going to shows, seeing the hardcore dudes, I would see those dudes with like face tattoos, and I was like, but even me, like I had full sleeves early on, and I remember, fast forward people saying, oh dude, like I was really intimidated by like you and Steve because I didn't know anybody that had that many tattoos, and it was intimidating because people knew what you went through to get to tattoos.
Yeah.
Cause you were, it's like, one of the oldest tattooists in Connecticut, this dude Inker, and he was a chopper, like he was a bike guy, and he had a panhead chopper, and that was the attitude. He was like, fucking get the fuck out of my shop.
Yeah. But see, you know, it all comes down to this with all of that, right? And I've said this before on this podcast with other things, you appreciate shit you earned way more than shit you're given. So I think that is why like we're still around a lot of shit. And there's like a lot of dudes we know that are still around in all these worlds, and that why there's so many people that just come and go because they were like, they're tourists. They're like around for a little bit and then they're like, oh, they move on to something else.
Yeah.
Like I want to move on to some shit that makes real fucking money and is like passive income, but I don't know how. And I don't care that much to do it. Like I say I want to do that. If I was smart, I would do that. Instead of owning a tattoo shop and a fucking bar and a fucking motorcycle shop. It's dumb shit, dude. It's dumb businesses to be in, but I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't escape it. Like,
and that's the thing. It's like it's either you does doing something for money have the same gratification that doing for love does? No.
But no, it doesn't. But like, if I could be doing way more lucrative and less stressful things with my time.
Of course you can. I mean,
we're gluttons for punishment.
You know, sometimes like it's funny because like, you know, my life is like freestyle to some degree, you know, where it's like, you know, design a shirt and do this and work on some bike shit and, you know, do some paint and do this. And it's like, you know, my wife has like a straight-laced job, like 9 to 5. And sometimes I just fantasize about having a fucking job where it's just mindless and I go to work and I just get fucking paid at the end of the week, you know?
Get direct deposit.
And it's like, dude, I just go.
Look at this money in my account.
Yeah, I show up, I fucking do what I'm supposed to do. Like whether, like not even wholeheartedly, just kind of like get through doing it and then and then get paid.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, and I think a lot of people think it's easy to like, you know, and they fantasize the opposite way. I'm just saying this, but I think a lot of people fantasize the opposite way where they think, oh, dude, it's so great to fucking be your own boss and it's so great. And you're like, dude, it is to some degree. Oh, yeah. But, dude, it's fucking stressful. Like, if you're not producing shit, you're not making money. And if you're not making, you know, it's like, it's difficult because, you know, like, even for me, over the past couple of years with all the stuff that happened, you know, like in my private life with my parents and stuff, because I had told you my parents passed away, like, relatively close to each other and unexpectedly. You know, you get in ruts where you're just like, dude, I don't fucking want to do anything. You know, or you can't grasp you don't have the mental capacity to do it. And it's just like, well, if you're not doing it, you know, then if you're not doing it, then you're not making money, man. It's tough. And, you know, and part of it goes back to the whole, like, hustling fucking t-shirts when I was in high school and all this shit. But then part of it is like, you know, where's your, I mean, me personally, I don't think I'd ever retire. I think I'll always be doing something.
No, but there's no retirement.
But there's no retirement fund either. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
no, you got a bunch of bikes that you can sell off.
I mean, that is, you know, the retirement fund. But again, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, it's like there's something to be said for both sides of the story.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I know, you know, because you've only hustled yourself.
Yeah, the thing that the scary part is for me is that now there's, you know, like employees that you have to look out for.
And other
That's
people.
The scary shit. Like, we need to keep these. You know, like, I'm responsible for a lot of motherfuckers now.
Right,
especially with the bar. Like, that's a full staff fucking.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's wild.
I couldn't even do. Like, I always fantasize about. I mean, I don't even drink, but I always fantasize about. And it's not because I'm straight edge, dude. I'm not a 50-year-old straight edge. Like, I don't have X's on my fucking hands. But you know, and to each his own. Whatever. I've always like been like, oh, dude, it'd be so awesome to own a bar, because like I always wanted to own like a seedy jazz bar, like
something weird,
that I could have shows in, but it was like quote unquote a jazz bar, you know, like from like the 50s or the 60s, and I can never make that, dude. I couldn't make that. Not that you have to know enough about it, but dude, I would just be.
No, it's it's the punk rock shit. I knew nothing about owning or operating a bar. Neither did Packer. We you know, I worked at bars, like I worked as a doorman, you know what I mean, like at clubs and shit. But we learned it. We never knew, not a restaurateur, didn't know anything about opening the kitchen. We just fucking opened the kitchen. Fucking, hey, we got to do it.
I guess sometimes, you know,
you got to do it. It's like the old thing. Like,
and I forget that. It's always like, you know, it's like, oh, dude, should I do it? Should I do it? And I'm like, oh, no. And it's like, just dive fucking into it and then worry about it
then
later.
Figure it out. You figure it out.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you know that you're resourceful enough to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
The hardest part with a bar literally is dealing with the city and the state and all the licensing.
Yeah, that bullshit.
It's like, it's an immense, dude. It's wild. Like we need to have a license for a pool table, a license for the fucking dart fucking board, a license for the jukebox, a license for the poker machine.
The legal mafia, dude.
Oh, dude,
fucking.
There is no bigger gangster than the fucking state, dude.
No,
there is no bigger gangster.
Without a doubt,
they are the biggest fucking gangs. They got the biggest racket. They're taxing you on shit that you've already been fucking taxed on. Right. Like,
in Connecticut, we get taxed and shit we own every year.
Yeah, we get excise tax.
Yeah.
Like, you think about, you own a car in Massachusetts, you pay to register. That's one tax. You pay gas tax.
Yeah.
That's an excise tax. Then you pay excise tax on owning the car that you already paid fucking sales tax on. It's like, how many more fucking times can you dip into my shit, motherfucker? Dude, but it's like, that's what I'm paying the fucking gangster, dude, to operate.
Dude, when I had my shop, every year, dude, I had to pay, when I had my skate shop, dude would come from the state. I had to pay personal property tax.
Yeah, I get that shit, dude.
Which is all the shit that's all the stuff. If people who are listening don't know what that is, that's all the stuff
in your
shop that you don't sell, that you utilize to sell. So that would be glass cases.
Yeah.
That would be racks. That would be
I get that too.
Hangers. That's any of that shit. I'm like, how is this fucking legal?
They send that to me here when I pay my property tax, and then there's like, oh yeah, and here's your personal property tax. And then it's like, no, let's not even talk about insurances, like how many fucking insurance policies I got. It's fucking wild, dude. So everyone thinks like, oh, you own a business, you're paid. I'm like, no, I am a conduit. I take money in and then I disperse it.
Funnels to,
and then it funnels it to the next
dudes
person.
that really make the money. Yeah.
I'm working for the state. I'm working for the state and the insurance companies.
Dude, in Connecticut, when you register a vehicle, it goes by high blue book value, dude. So you pay taxes. So like on that. So if you were to buy a 36 knucklehead, okay, and you go to register it, mind you, it's a nightmare to register anything in Connecticut. Which is, I know it's not easy here in Massachusetts either.
If you have a title, it's not so bad. But if you don't,
Connecticut doesn't have titles.
Yeah, so
you can't have a title. Well, you can, but they'll tear it up.
It's registration.
Yeah. So if you bring the title in, which to anybody that's listening to this that's in Connecticut, don't bring the title in. Just get a bill of sale and keep the title, because if you're selling it out of state, you always have a title. So I don't ever bring the titles because they'll rip them up. They just take them and they rip them up. But if I was to bring a 36 knucklehead, they would look up the Kelly Blue Book value on I don't care if it's a piece of shit. They'll look up the high Kelly Blue Book value on it, and that's what you get taxed on.
Yeah, it could be a basket case, and they're going to tax you on like,
dude, I bought
a restored fucking.
I bought my truck. It's like a 06 F250, like Super Duty, right? And I got a good deal on it. I bring it. I go to DMV to register it. I hand the dude.
Is that only on like private transactions? If you do it through a dealership, will they charge you tax on what you actually paid?
No. So anywhere in Connecticut, it's blue book.
See, in Massachusetts, if you buy something from a dealer, you'll get taxed on your actual what you paid.
Okay.
But if you do a private transaction, they'll charge you on whatever they want to charge you.
I'm pretty sure it's not in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I go buy my truck, dude.
By the way, motherfuckers in like Montana right now are laughing.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers live in these dumbass states. Yeah.
These stupid little states that are like the size of a fucking town and shit.
If they don't pay none of this. Free states.
Yeah, Connecticut has like the highest fucking paid people that live in it, dude, and and we're like one of the smallest states and shit. The taxes are crazy. So anyway, and I go to bring to register it, and I paid like $6,700 for my truck. Yeah, and
that is a good deal.
It is a good deal for a diesel truck, and the dude laughs. He looks at the bill of sale. And he goes, and I go, what, dude? He goes, is that what you paid for? I said, yeah, that's actually what I paid for it. Because the dudes I bought it off of were like really like legit dudes.
Yeah.
They were like, when they were filling things, he's like, I'm going to put down the actual value. I said, okay. He goes, dude, you're going to get taxed on the blue book value on it. I go, yeah, all right. Dude, they tax me $12,000, dude.
Almost double
of what I fucking paid.
Like I'd be like, you think that's funny, motherfucker? Like, you think that's funny? You're fucking me that hard? Like, fuck you, dude.
But how is it even legal?
Because motherfuckers don't say shit about it,
dude. In your store, if somebody came in to your store and bought something, like your shop and bought something, like I know we're in Massachusetts, but if they came in here and you said, you know what? That sweatshirt is worth $200, so I'm gonna charge you $200.
You're gonna pay me $40 for the sweatshirt, but I'm gonna charge you taxes on $200. Yeah.
Somebody from the state would come in here and be like, "Listen, dude, you can't fucking do that. It's against the law." Like,
actually, they wouldn't. They'd be like, "Oh, you're paying us that." As long as I'm paying them that, they wouldn't complain.
But
I get it.
But it's like one of those things where it's like, so yeah. So anyway, somebody's always trying to, I guess, fuck you out of
Well, the problem is these state and federal, whatever, government gets too big, and then it has to justify. It has to sustain itself. It has to sustain itself and sustain its growth.
The $2,000 hammer fucking
or whatever.
Shit, whatever. Where it's like goes through 80. It's got to justify the people.
We got to hire all these new employees to do more shit to fuck you. So we got to justify. We got to pay their fucking their government salaries, and they leave at 12 o'clock on Fridays, and they have like 4 weeks of vacation and fucking pension and shit. None of us will ever have.
Yeah, I in Connecticut. Well, when I had my shop, I don't know.
If you want to really get a fucking state job. Then you really,
They charge you like 15% of your yearly earnings, dude. If you're a small business, which I'm like, shouldn't you charge small businesses less money? I mean, every business.
Well, you know, there's a problem with that. Do you know what the definition of a small business is?
No.
Anywhere from 1 to 500 employees.
Oh, that's why.
So there really needs to be like a real small business, which is like 1 to 15 employees. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, like 50, even 50, whatever. But 500 employees to me isn't a small fucking business.
No, not at all, dude.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's a big.
That's fucking.
You could have
500 employees. You're a multi-million dollar business to be able to pay all those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know
just
and then the rest of the overhead.
Just in payroll, dude.
Yeah.
That's that's nothing else except just the people that work for you, dude.
Yeah. So it's wild. It's like. That's how they get over on a lot of this shit. There needs to be a new breakdown on that.
I mean,
we just took a
really
turn.
Fucking wild turn.
and only people who own businesses right now are amped up. Everyone else is why the fuck are they talking about this? Like, can you talk about knuckleheads again?
Yeah.
or punk rock?
Yeah, punk rock and knuckle. Isn't that all there is in life? Is punk rock and knuckle?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, the problem is if you bring punk rock to the real punk rock shit or attitude to the world today, everyone's like, whoa, fucking. You're a fucking,
dude, trust. Yeah, I know. I know. We and I don't know if it's the world and necessarily just this country, but I feel like other countries it's not as crazy in other places.
You know what's going on though? It's like dudes are more punk rock in other places. Like you don't hear about the shit going on in like France and Germany with the farmers and shit. Like where they're like, fuck this, and they're going to the state house and throwing fucking truckloads of fucking shit on the fucking You don't see that because the government propaganda.
Yeah, the
corporate-owned media doesn't want you to see any acts of civil disobedience.
Of course.
Because they don't want to spark that in people. You know what I mean?
Suicidal tendencies.
Yeah, dude. Fucking.
Exactly. Dude, it's so weird. Sometimes I listen to certain stuff and I'm like, this is so weird. It's like it's like these dudes. And I don't know how much of it was them being serious or, but it's like you fast forward and you're just like, man, like what these dudes on, the stuff that we listen to are saying, a lot of that shit is like, you're like, you listen to a lot of Dead Kennedy stuff and you're like,
which is crazy because now Jello Biafra's the other side.
I know.
He's so bought and paid for. He was like making, like, he was really bad during the fucking COVID. And I was like, bro, I ain't you the dude that wrote the government flu. I don't troll anybody, but I trolled that motherfucker. I was like, dude, you're the dude that wrote government flu.
Right. Like, dude, when I lived in San Francisco, because I lived out in California, he would buy space on the radio. Like he would buy like a 30-minute slot on the radio and come on and say all kinds of crazy political shit, dude. And they couldn't say anything because he was paying, for the slot that it was in. And it would just be this weird rant of him, like saying like, I remember one time he was saying that like the San Francisco 49ers, it's a waste to have a football team. They should just take all the homeless people in San Francisco and put them in the stadium and have them someplace to live, because at least that would be making like use of a space. Just like crazy.
Well, the wild thing about the world today is that these dudes like that'll support sending billions of dollars to Ukraine or Israel or whatever. Yeah. Like when there's been studies that said $20 billion could end homelessness in the United States.
So crazy.
And we send infinite amounts of money overseas
to other countries. It's crazy
for other shit. And then if you say anything about that, they're like, oh, you're not humanitarian. I'm like, no, I am humanitarian. I want to end homeless here.
Yeah.
Like
when you see homelessness on a large level, like in a large capacity, or like on the level that it is when you're like in Skid Row.
Yeah.
You're it does this weird thing to you where you're like, cause I mean, I'm not saying that nobody has seen it. I mean, a lot of people have seen it, a lot of people haven't. When you see it on television, you're like, okay, I get what's going on. But when you see it in like real life and you're like, like it's in front of you, it's this weird thing that you're just like, how can a country or people in a country allow something like this? I know it's this huge ordeal and it's not an easy thing to fix, but it's like the state and the people that work for you, essentially, because that's what government and state is, right? Is they're supposed to work for the people. They don't anymore. They're supposed to.
But in the reality now is we work
for them. But in the reality of it is they work for us. Is how can you let people necessarily be? And I know a lot of people have it's a lot of
it's we get what we deserve. Not what we deserve, but we get what we let them do. It's complacency of the American people that let all this happen.
They're happy. Yeah. It's like it's the whole thing is switched over the years. It's like my parents in the 50s and 60s, and they like blue collar people that were not Republicans at that time. It's like switched. The Republicans have become the Democrats, and the Democrats have become the Republicans over the people that were.
It does that though. They go like those parties go in cycles.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like in when my dad would
the Democrats were the slavery party back in the day.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I don't want to get into history, but it's just weird that these blue the blue collar workers were for freedom and for, like, the Constitution and the right, maybe the right to bear arms and stuff like that. And now it's like, switched around, and it's just a really weird thing. I don't get much into politics because I fucking hate everything.
Yeah.
And I just I feel like, dude, you're like, if you're on this side of if you're on this side of the tracks, dude, you're fucked no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, more people just need to realize that, like,
Yeah, those are two wings on the same fucking bird.
Yeah.
Like, that bird ain't fucking giving a fuck about you, dude. You're a cash cow. You're a fucking, basically you're a slave anywhere from 4 to 9 months of the year for that fucking bird, dude. That's what
they got way more money than we do.
Well, no, but like, that's where most of your money goes. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, and if you counted every fucking tax, everyone's just like, oh, I pay my taxes, and they think like, federal income tax and then state income. But what about state income tax? What about property tax? What about? And then if you own a business, you pay an employment tax on wages that are going to get taxed again on the employee level. There's just so many fucking taxes. It's hard to keep up with, and it's like way beyond like 30% or a third or whatever they think you pay. Like you're paying at least 50%.
The system's made to.
Yeah,
it's made for you.
It nickels and dimes you to fucking death, dude. And it's like, but with inflation coming and prices on the rise, people are gonna feel it more. I hope it wakes more people up and gets people more active. You know what I mean? Like, and just be like, fuck these motherfuckers, dude. Like, when politicians worked for the people, when they could still get tarred and fucking feathered. That's when they worked for the people, because they were scared of the people. Now they're trying to disarm you, and they want you to be fucking complacent little fucking gender neutral fucking jellyfish, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's sad. You know what I mean? Like,
just I look at it like this, dude. To each his own. Whatever you want to do is great. Absolutely. If you want to do it, and you're free to do it. But
as long as you ain't fucking harming me or someone
or
I know.
Anybody else, cool, dude. And going back to the way our cloth was cut, dude. Yeah, that's the way we are. Because in every scene that we're in, there's all these different types of people and people that do shit. It's cool. You want to do whatever you want to do, but the thing is
you want to believe whatever you want to believe. You want to say whatever you say. Go ahead, dude. I don't care.
That's awesome. Cool. And you should.
And I'm not going to censor you. Like, even if you say the stupidest shit, like, I believe like cream rises to the top. If you say and believe some stupid shit, that's on you, dude.
I mean,
like,
freedom is free, right?
Yeah.
Freedom is free. Yeah. So it's like, meaning like you can do and say whatever you want when you're free. But when those freedoms are taken away or manipulated in a way to say, well, my freedom is what freedom is, then freedom's not free anymore. Yeah. That's basically like saying, that's like the whole thing with Henry Rollins with the long hair, and you're like, fuck, fucking hippie. Like when a scene starts to have all this, again, like I said earlier, have all these labels, then you can pick it apart. You can start picking things apart,
Yeah.
And segregating it, and and it's unfortunate. I've traveled a lot. There's a lot of beautiful places in this world. I love being here. I love the, like, I always think, like, it's funny because I always think, man, dude, like, imagine living in England. Like, dude, you can't even like get a hold of a panhead whenever you want one.
No, yeah.
And it's like, but at this, you come, it's like awesome place and people love it, but at the same time, it's unfortunate that manufacturing isn't here, or it's on a small level. It's been brought to so many other countries, and we just that unity, I don't think, in that sense of community isn't what it used to be, forged like by all putting in effort to do something.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you were saying too is like, this is still a fucking awesome place, man.
It's a great
and when
place.
you go out and you travel and you hang out, and motherfuckers are cool. Like, people are cool. Like, there's still a lot of people that know what's up. It's, if you get trapped into like watching mainstream news, you think it's like everyone's at war with each other.
Yeah. And that's not the case. That's not the case.
But there's people that like, you know, if all you do is go on Facebook and you only interact with people that feel 100% the same way you do, and you only watch like Fox News or MSNBC or CNN,
yeah.
like you're gonna have such a skewed vision of what is really going on.
Yeah, and it's isolation to some degree. You know,
it's isolation and nonstop propaganda fucking bombing. You know what I mean? There ain't even like it ain't even like hidden anymore. Like it's fucking nonstop fucking propaganda, dude. Like you gotta.
I mean, that's why I was going back to the whole suicidal thing, where it's just like like flashing pictures on my screen, and it's just like you look at you listen to it, you're like, man, that's fucking weird. It's like almost. I mean, it is like that. It's crazy, but I mean. I love it here just because essentially I can have a lot of motorcycles.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. That's what
I mean. The weird part about it is like this whole podcast
for now until everything's mandated electric.
True. Yeah. The one thing to
which is the dumbest fucking thing ever. And if you're falling for that bullshit, you ain't helping. You ain't doing shit. Really research it. Research what goes behind electric fucking vehicles, dude.
There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, from mining.
You're using way more fossil fucking fuels than a fucking. I mean, 454 fucking blown fucking. Big block fucking Chevy, truck,
dude.
Yeah.
I don't mean it like we don't. Yeah. I mean, just on the.
You know what though? I'm done being nice about shit. Like
well, in the north,
You're fucking stupid if you're falling for that shit. You're fucking stupid. Get your head out of your fucking ass. Do a little research.
In the Northeast, dude. Okay.
Yeah.
Here in the Northeast, the majority of our electricity in the Northeast is produced by burning fossil fuel, which is coal.
It's cold.
Okay. So the more electricity you use,
the more coal you're
burning. So
and that's not even talking about what goes into making the fucking vehicle.
No.
We're just talking about the electricity.
Yeah, here in the Northeast. So
but they don't want you to see that because they want to push an agenda because there's something behind that agenda that I don't 100% know what it is. But there's
I'm sure it has something to do with lithium and like how much fucking
somebody's invested in fucking
lithium
something
or some shit like that. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And everyone that wants to be like. Talking about like fucking oppression and slavery and stuff. Go look at what's into mining those fucking elements to make. Yeah, I've watched
some of those.
Fucking wild, dude.
Crazy.
But anyway,
the weird part.
I don't think anyone that listening to this podcast is driving around in a Tesla wearing a mask. So. And no offense to Tesla, because if you want an electric vehicle, that shit's fun as fuck. Like I don't like. You ever drive a Tesla?
I've been in one.
It's fucking bananas, dude.
Yeah, they're fast. I know.
Like I couldn't have one because I wouldn't have a license.
Yeah, they're super fast.
Like when I used to have when my daily driver was my Chevelle, I was always one ticket away from losing my license.
Do you have that car still?
No, dude. I had in like 2001, I think I bought that. It was a true matching numbers.
I know. I remember that car.
Chevelle Super Sport. And that was like my daily driver.
I remember that car.
And I sold that to buy when I bought a house in Providence in 2008, which was the dumbest purchase I ever made in my life. Like I bought during that bubble, but I could afford the house. Like it was just like, I didn't know they were lending to all these people around me that couldn't afford the house. Yeah. And my house went up for 1 year. And then like I bought it for $300,000. The next year it was worth like $325 or $330. And then 2 years after that it was worth $75,000. So it was like fucking because of the neighborhood, everyone foreclosed and fucking lost their houses.
Horrible.
I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, so I get a gripe about losing that Chevelle because that car was awesome. That one, and I had a Duster with a 440 in it.
I don't think I remember it.
Yeah, that one I wish
Maybe I do remember that. What color was that?
It was like that Chevy orange.
I do remember that. Yeah. I do remember that car.
Even though it was a Hemi. And then I'm sorry, not a Hemi. Fucking a Mopar.
Yeah.
Then after that I went to fucking like the Lincolns and the more cruisers because I was like I was so like literally one ticket away from losing my license for years. So.
The big cars are nice because you can't. I mean, you can go fast on the highway, but you can't like.
I'll tell you what though, that '66 fucking my Lincoln, dude. I'd be doing 85 on the highway, and that thing was just gliding.
I know,
gliding.
Yeah, it's like fucking crazy.
It didn't handle like.
It won't handle like a shit. But if you're going in a straight line,
dude, fucking
beautiful. Didn't you have a? Did you have Impala?
I do. I still do. I have a 67 Impala.
Oh, that's like my favorite fucking car.
Yeah. That car was a nightmare. I'll tell you about it. It's a long story. It's not like I'm trying to hide it. It's just like I had an electrical problem, and then it ended up like basically redoing the whole fucking car. So it's brand new.
So basically, what you would do to a British motorcycle?
Yeah. Pretty much. You can't just fix one. You go through the whole thing. Unnecessarily, a lot of it. But I was working on it with a buddy of mine that went through a rough patch and then went through some mental health issues, and then was like, I'd go and then like all this shit was torn apart, and I'm like, bro, like we didn't need to do that. And now we're like fucking, rebuilding the pumpkin and getting into like the fucking cleaning out the fucking axles and like like just fucking everything in that car is brand new now.
I mean, I guess it's good now.
Good now, yeah.
Yeah, that's like my favorite. 67. I had a 63.
Those are nice too.
Wagon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was dropped with Supremes, and like 3 years ago, some kids it was parked at my parents' house, and I was there. The car was up on jacks, and we were about to take the tires off to swap the tires off for winter, and to put like steel wheels on it.
Yeah.
And some kids were racing down. My parents lived on like a pretty busy street. And these two kids were like street racing, and one kid got the other kid loose. And when the car hooked up and went straight across their lawn and like T-boned the fucking car, dude. And it was like,
did you have good like Hagerty or Grundy or something? I didn't. Insurance?
Fully bananaed the fucking car out, dude.
Oh,
like,
God.
Dude, right in the B pillar, hit it. Dude, it was like heartbreaking. I mean, I got a good amount of money compared to what I bought the car for, so I can't complain.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, it was like...
But it's not easily replaceable. You don't see a lot of 63 wagons kicking around.
No. And it was in good shape, and it was like a car that I'd wanted for a long time. And the kid... It was his grandmother's car. It was like a Ford Escort or something.
Oh, Jesus. It wasn't even... that car was not meant to be racing.
No.
Yeah.
And it 5 minutes... Dude, I mean, thank God, 5 minutes later, me and my dad would have been out there pulling the wheels off of this thing because he was going to come out and help me. And if that would have happened, then one of us would have got... Yeah, one of us would have got probably killed. So, okay, I lose the car. But...
it's just steel. Yeah.
But, dude, it was like...
Yeah.
It was like so fucked up, dude. Like one of the jacks ripped the whole ripped the oil pan off the bottom of the motor, dude. It was like I would have caught an assault charge that day, dude. And oddly enough, man,
I don't care if that kid was bleeding and fucking his head was split open from the accident. I would have ripped him out of the car. And
oddly enough, dude, oddly enough, it was this weird thing. Because my dad was like, I can't believe you're handling this so good. And I was just like, and the kid was like 17 and
he wouldn't have made it to 18.
And for some odd reason, dude, I don't know why.
This, like, calmness, like
it's just like this calmness came because I was like, the damage is already done. And then I was like, and then I like flashed back to like me when I was like his age.
Yeah.
And I smashed into. I had a Volkswagen GTI, and I was going to work one day. I worked at the mall, and there was these chicks in a convertible next to me, and I was at a light, and the light was up far, and the right lane to turn was like this like swooping turn. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like a right turn. So there was a car in front of me, and I like looked over at these chicks. And dude, I just dropped it and did this burnout, and I smashed fucking right into the ass end of the lady that was in front of me because I thought she had driven away.
She hadn't taken
away. She hadn't driven off.
She's probably, what the fuck is this kid doing?
Like full on, dude. Full on, like first, second gear smoke show, bang, dude, right into the ass. And then, oddly enough, like the girls drove by laughing at me.
Yeah.
Not one of my better moments of like being cool, but and I like flashed back to that moment, and I was just like, dude, you did so much stupid shit when you were a kid that I
Yeah, but it wasn't like you went and smashed into like a 30 Model A. Like
No,
like,
and I know it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't, and I get it, but it was just like one of those things where I was just like,
I get it.
And the kid was like freaking out. He's like, "This is my grandmother's car. It's her only car," and it was like,
yeah, and you just smashed a '63 fucking Impala wagon, motherfucker. Like,
I was like, "This is a irreplaceable car, dude."
Yeah.
And
your grandmother's fucking Escort, she can get a brand new one tomorrow.
And it was just one of those one odd time where I just was like,
you got to look at it as like, oh, maybe that car, like something bad was going to happen in it. Yeah,
you know, I mean, you never know. But again, like I said, 5 minutes later, me or my dad probably would have got hit by the car and killed. You know, but
so there's that to put it in perspective.
Yeah, but we, you know, and then COVID hit and the prices of all that shit went up. So I couldn't buy another car to replace it because I couldn't find everything went fucking through the roof,
bananas,
dude. So I couldn't, you know, that's like we were talking about the knucklehead and it's like, I'll ride it, but like, it's almost not even worth it to ride because if something fucking happens to it, you know,
fixing that's going to be fucking wild,
you know, but yeah, I mean, you know,
because you don't want to throw V-twin parts on that, you know what I mean?
No, not that bike, you know? I mean, even though
that's going to be OG.
Even though it's a chopper, you know? I mean,
but the motor, everything's all legit.
So I meant to ask you, dude, because I was trying to think on my way up here, the first time I had met you, it's been so long, dude, I think that we've known each other that I don't even remember when the first...
I know you had short hair.
That was a long time.
And you still had the skateboard shop.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And I don't
remember where it was, but I remember we started talking about like hardcore skateboarding.
It was I know it was at a swap meet, dude.
Yeah.
And it was one of the British swap meets, I think, maybe.
Okay, yeah. It was one of those BIA ones, I think, like in Western Mass.
Yeah. Like over that way. I remember being, because I remember
near Worcester. Yeah.
I think I remember seeing like you might have had like a one of your tattoos or something gave it away. Yeah. And we ended up talking. It's been a long time. I haven't had, dude.
Yeah, it's like early 2000s, right? Something like that.
Maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking, dude. It's weird, man. Like time, like I remember shit, but I like the time frames. Everything's fucking wild.
I haven't had short hair in a long fucking time, dude.
Yeah. You still had short hair.
Yeah. I remember, but I haven't had short hair. Fuck, I don't even know how long it's been since I had short hair.
Yeah, you probably had like a skate something.
Yeah.
Thing
I'm sure I did, and then
like
we probably going back.
And we're like some of the only young dudes at the British swap meet in the early 2000s. Yeah,
that's always were always a weird scene.
Yeah, it was probably like 2000, dude. Really, because because I started going to those in like the late 90s. Have
you built any British stuff
lately? No. So when me and Jay divided up the business, like I took the Harley stuff and he took the British stuff. So anything that comes in Brit, I refer over to him, and if he gets Harley stuff, he refers over to me.
Oh, that's cool.
So the last British bike was probably the Born Free bike. That was a full build. I have like a Triumph Chopper project in the back that like was my boy Ryan's that passed away. So I'll finish that for him. But you know, we've worked on some like modern British stuff here, but like just maintenance shit.
That's cool. I guess I know you don't miss that shit.
No, I do. It was like, what I miss is when the time frame when we could just have a shop that built choppers.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to do service and repair shit. We had an assembly line, like Jay would be working on the motors, I'd be doing the fabrication. We both kind of put it together. And it was fun, you know what I mean? That stuff I miss, you know what I mean?
It's tough now.
And then having a shop with like, we could just shut the doors and go take a ride for lunch. Like having this for people that are listening, you don't see me pointing towards the showroom. Like we have to be open, like, you know, so there's not the freedom that there was. Like, so I tell anyone like, keep your garage shop or your fabrication like shop and, you know, post suggested hours, but like do by appointment only and just fucking
it's
have that freedom, dude.
You know, it's tough because it's like, you know, I don't think I ever set out. I've always been into like having an idea to do something and manufacturing it, whether it's a fucking hoodie or going back to that or whatever. Yeah. But I never, it's like,
you're really trying to sell these fucking hoodies.
No,
I'm just fucking.
I'm not at all. Don't buy them, dude. Don't buy.
Bootleg them.
So yeah, make your own, dude. Do yourself a favor. But I feel like nowadays you have to do something else. Like you can't just build. Like it's so fucking expensive to like get parts and like.
And you know how it is. You never get paid for every hour you have into a bike build. There's no way you could charge for every hour.
No.
But the other good thing is that what I think also happened is that the dudes that were like would pay for someone to build them a chopper. Those kind of guys have gone away, and the dudes that are into it are building their own shit.
Yeah.
So, like I would sell a lot of oil tanks, that we make here, or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's cool, and it's cool. Like chopper, you should be involved in building your bike.
Of course, I mean it's an extension of yourself, who you are.
Yeah.
I mean it's just it
just sucks that it was cool when all the TV shows made it hot. Yeah, there's a lot of people who wanted a chopper.
It's one thing if you can't do. I have friends.
You live in a fucking 7th floor apartment and you don't have a garage. You're not building your own bike unless you get garage space or have friends or something.
Yeah. I'm building a Triumph chopper for my friend Josh, who was in American Nightmare, that hardcore band. American Nightmare. And it's cool because he's low key about it. And he's like, dude, when you get it done, and I've gone through a lot of shit, so it's been on hiatus and and he doesn't he doesn't care. And he rides a lot. He rides dirt. He comes over and rides dirt bikes at our house and trail rides and stuff. So he's got stuff to ride that he enjoys, but it's one of those things where I was away from it and now it's like fun, and
you're almost re-energized.
Yeah. And it's fun because I think British stuff is so easy to build. I mean, it's difficult in some regards, but there's so much stuff that you can actually.
The motor stuff is a lot different.
Yeah.
You got to know the tricks.
You got to know it, and the electrical shit's fucking garbage. I mean,
well, you just start from scratch.
Yeah, start from scratch.
You don't use any Triumph wiring.
Yeah. Can you imagine
components?
that?
You go with a Boyer ignition and get rid of all that fucking Lucas stuff.
But it's I don't mind points on them still. I don't mind points, but
every Triumph we built with an those Boyer ignitions, first second kick.
Yeah.
No problems. But I'm not opposed to points, but you just get rid of that. The capacitor. Not the capacitor. The Zener diode.
Zener diode.
Yeah.
Why do they always have such fucked up names for everything?
They have the Queen's English, I guess.
Dude, what do they call magnetos?
Oh, I don't know what the.
Oh, dude, they call. Fuck, dude. Now, why can't I think? Dude, they have.
I always get tripped up on words.
Dude, they. Oh man, what is the? I'm gonna have to look it up online, dude. They call Magneto some weird name, dude, and I'm just like, what, dude? Like they always have the weird names, and they over engineer everything.
Yeah.
Did you ever see like the early pre-unit rear hubs?
Oh yeah. Bananas.
Did you ever take one apart?
Yeah, well, yes. Years ago. But
did you ever put one back together, dude?
Jay used to do that shit. Dude, I was doing the fab work.
All the old timers that I always talk to say, dude, do not ever take
those fucking
one of those sprung hubs. Yeah. Do not ever take it apart. You will never get it back together. Yeah. There's like 80 million fucking springs and shit in them. Yeah. And you're just like, you guys thought making a hub that had suspension in it was the easiest thing possible to do. It's like Whitworth shit, dude. It's like, I mean, for anybody out there that's
and then you
listening
need another set of spanners.
Spanners
for the
every
Whitworth
fucking
bolts.
And every thread, dude, is a different thread because supposedly, from what I heard from some old timers, is that each one has the thread matches the torque for the size of the bolt.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck, dude? What different? Like everything on British bikes, but it's been
they got away from the Whitworth stuff towards the end. And
yeah, for sure.
Shit,
yeah, but doing this bike it's just been pretty cool because it's just kind of like, getting back. There were some issues with the frame, so I had to cut the frame, and then I had to replace some of this because it's a really nice frame. It's got like a short hardtail that somebody did on it, but they did a horrible job. The rake on it was pretty nice, and I had to fix some stuff on that frame. But getting back to I mean Harley stuff is great. I feel like it's much easier, I guess, to
yes and no. The problem with Harley is that they change shit every fucking year and a half. Or then if you got a weird half-year bike or like an in-between, if you got the bike that was in between a shovel and an Evo, you got a bunch of Evo shit, a bunch of shovel shit.
Yeah, and it's all weird, and it's all cobbled together.
Yeah. It's like, okay, and we use this from 81 to 83.
But
and this from 72 to 75. But there's a lot of bullshit with it. But
getting back to like what we were saying earlier, I feel like with Harleys, dude, if you just take your front fender off, it's like, oh, cool. Dude, it's cool. It's like a chopper, or like bob the rear fender. You don't have to do
it's
anything
true. Yeah,
else.
if you have a shovel head, it's pretty cool right from the rip. Like,
you're just like pull the front fender off, put a 21 on the front.
Take half of the hinged fender off.
Yeah, and that's it. You're good to go.
You're good to go. A Triumph is cool looking stock, but like you have to really redo it to make it.
Yeah,
a chopper.
and I feel like Harleys are essentially choppers with just taking stuff off.
Yeah.
But there's no way you could do that with
you can make a cool cafe with doing a couple things to a Triumph, but
but you can't make a chopper. You have to tear it down and build.
There's no sprung chopper. No, like you got to take it and put in a rigid.
Yeah.
Like you can get away with like a shovel head with fucking with a sprung rear. It's all right with shocks. But what was cool in the early days, like when we first got into it, like Triumphs were still like the punk rocker choppers. You could buy one for like $400,
dirt cheap, dude.
Like like your father used to sell panheads. But like. Shovel heads were still like $5-6 grand back then. They were. It was weird. Like shovel heads were like expensive, and then they were cheap, and then they're expensive. Yeah. And now they're kind of mid range. You know what I mean? But it's like.
But it was like. And British stuff here in the Northeast is so attainable, dude. Yeah. It's so easy to get your hands on that shit.
It's not as much anymore. Like the problem is eBay and shit fuck shit up too, because you go to the swap meets now and everyone's like, nah, I'm selling that on eBay. I want the most money for it or whatever.
Yeah.
But Triumphs are in a weird place right now. They're not where they used to be.
No.
Cost wise.
No, and I think exporting that stuff, there's like no love lost if it's gone. Like there's
why? Because it's going back to England mostly. Yeah. So it's like it's going home. Yeah.
It's like with Harley stuff, it's like Japan or it's going to like New Zealand or it's going to Australia, and it's like and touching briefly on like the Japanese, I love what those dudes do over there, and they're like 100% into it. A lot of my friends that are over there, they're like.
But it's a long time. Like we went to Moon Eyes in 2005.
Yeah, and they were
and it was like that's where all the knuckleheads were back then.
Yeah, back then,
and then now it's 20 something years later.
Yeah. The stuff's still going on, and they still love it. Yeah. But they know everything about. It's like
they go deep, they go hard, and they go deep.
Yeah, in anything,
on the research and
anything,
they get
dude.
into it.
It's like hardcore. Like going back to that thing. It's like I knew somebody in Japan that was like way into hardcore, and he was like, have you ever heard this band? They're from Connecticut. And I was like, I've never heard that band.
Yeah.
And they were just like, they knew everything, the full catalog of everything that every
they
fucking band, and it's cool because like they respect it, but once it goes over there, dude, it's never coming back.
No, because it's just
it couldn't be, because it like the price of the stuff to get back here, it's not.
And we're not going to pay for. We're not going to pay for it. We're not going to pay what they pay for.
No.
You know what I mean?
And
then for them to send it back, they would have to upcharge it. You know what I mean?
For sure. But the amount of stuff that's there is.
Then again, though, it's like whatever you work for, you appreciate more than what you're just.
Without a doubt.
And that's like, when you get a $3,000 shovel head, you're kind of just giving that bike.
Yeah.
Like there was a couple of years where I was buying them for like $2,500
right.
like running.
Yeah, yeah.
Like those days.
I was buying them for like 1,400.
Yeah, that
dude.
too. Yeah,
like not running, but they didn't need much. They needed a battery and
That's when you could. That's when you could chip the guy down from 2,500 to 4. Be like, this thing ain't running, dude. I don't know what's going on in there.
I got some really cool, really cool like cone shovels like around that time.
Yeah,
where they were just like, and it was cool because like you could do a couple things to it, make a decent profit and sell it to somebody that was stoked on it for like cheap money.
Yeah, yeah. You could get someone on the ground running for like $5,000.
Yeah.
On a really fucking cool bike.
Yeah.
You can't do that no more.
No, you're not gonna.
No, I remember I bought one for $2,500, and the guy gave me like a full size, like one, not one of these, but it was a full size lift.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, I was like, that lift's like fucking $1,500. I know, dude. Like fucking,
dude. I went to
and a bunch of extra parts and shit.
Yeah, that's what I miss about. That's what I miss kind of about like years ago, where you would go to like buy something, and then the dude would be like, "Oh yeah, I got 5 bins of shit, dude. I don't fucking want it. Just take it." Yeah,
and a lot of it was bullshit, but you'd find a couple little gems in there, and that made it even more.
Dude, when I went that panhead I was telling you about, that the generator ear was broken off of, that I got to get fixed. I went and bought that bike, and I bought it up by like Lake Placid, dude, and I paid like $2,300 for like basket case, everything was there, and the dude gave me a truck load full of parts. He was like, I'm moving. I don't want any of this shit. Take it. And I fucking took it.
Because otherwise it was going to the dump.
Yeah. He was like, I'm just
going to scrap you.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want this shit. And dude, it was so much good shit. And I was just like, like an old timer once told me, old hot rod guy once told me, he said, listen, if somebody offers you shit when you go to buy stuff, take it. Because you could throw it out if it's no good.
Yeah.
But there's going to be good shit in it. And he also told me, if you find one of one thing, buy it, because you'll get it cheaper than if it's in a pair, if it's a pair of something.
Yeah.
Like a pair of heads or whatever. Yeah. You buy one.
A Dagmar off a 55 Cadillac.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll find the other one sometime.
Yeah, somewhere. You're going to find it, dude. Yeah. They're out there. You get it cheaper if there's double. So I always live by that. I was always just, I would go places with my old man to buy bikes, and he would just be like, what the fuck are you taking this garbage for? And I would just take it, and I'd be like, dude, this piece right here, $500.
Yeah.
$300.
Yeah.
Or you would use it. It seems like now everybody's so smart to everything. It's like,
that's the problem, is like everything's, you go to a swap meet, there's not swap meet prices anymore. It's full retail. What people want. Like, dude, like look at like 4-speed fucking ratchet transmissions, dude. Like you just buy those $400, $300,
$200.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to go back just a few years ago. Never,
I know, yeah,
like,
but
now it's like $1,400.
Yeah.
Like like for like a sketchy one. Yeah. Like you're like, well, probably gonna
you remember like cow pie transmission? Nobody fucking want
those were $100. Yeah.
Nobody wanted that shit. They're like fucking $700 now.
They're the new ratchet one, because it's like no one can afford the ratchet one anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I mean, I was telling you, I sold my buddy a nice shovel head for pretty cheap, and the engine was rebuilt. It had been sitting around for a long time, and he's like one of my best friends. So I didn't make any money off of it.
You just gave what you had into it.
And he's going to build a chopper, and I told him, I said, listen, dude, when you're done, because he's going to ride the bike for this season, I said, when you're done, give me that. I want the cow pie transmission, because he's going to put a shovel ratchet top, and I said, at least I could
get some
money, because he's not going to use it anyway, So I was like, at least I could recoup some money on that. But but again, it's like, a lot of people are doing this stuff themselves because they couldn't afford somebody else to do it, And
well, now the parts are just so fucking expensive.
How do you build a panhead chopper? I mean, you build it and then you raffle it off, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the raffle thing is like pretty much.
So like that's my take on it, is like, some people get wicked pissed about raffle stuff. I'm like, I don't care, dude. Do whatever you want. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I just I'm like, come on, dude. Like you see someone with like this fucking $3,000 bike or $5,000 bike, and they're trying to get $10,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fucking lame. Just fucking get what it's worth. Like when I did that shovel head, man, like at the end, like, I got less than I could have probably just sold it for if I had tried to sell it. You know what I mean? But it was just like, it was just fun. And I just wanted to get some money quick. I got to pay property tax. Fucking
yeah. I raffled Ironhead, like a 67 Survivor.
Yeah.
Running bike. It was all chrome. It was a swing arm bike, but it was really cool. Really East Coast, like paint job was like metal, like heavier metal flake, but it'd been sitting for a long time. I got it running, and I raffled it off. And I think the raffle tickets were like $65, I think, because I couldn't justify. I was like, fuck no, I'm charge people $100.
So if you do $100, it's all right as long as you don't do 100 tickets. You know what I mean? If you're doing like,
no, I get it, but I was like, you know what? I was like, it'll be cooler if I do $65.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and then I think
I was trying to justify by like the less number. Like you got more of a chance to win.
Yeah. I think it was. I you know what? I went on my Instagram account and I asked people.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, dude, I did like a poll.
No, that's cool.
And I said, listen, do you guys want it to be $100? And then there's only 65 people. I think, or 55 people, I think. Because it was a really nice running, you know, Ironhead. And just a cool piece. And I thought, you know, at the price I had it was justifiable. It wasn't like I wanted $10,000 for it. Yeah. And
but people do. They'll be like this fucking Evo fucking Sportster Chopper, and they want to sell $12,000 worth of tickets for it.
You're like, come on, dude.
Man, and it's not even like a radical chopper, like where there's like been that much work done to it. It's like a fucking $6,000 bike, if that.
And I went on and I said, do you guys want me to do $65
and do a couple more tickets?
Or do you want to do 100? And everybody said, 65 would be cool because everybody's like at 100.
Yeah.
You know, and I ended up doing it, and oddly enough,
probably sold that out in a few hours, right?
Yeah, I think it was like a day.
Yeah,
I think it was like a day, but it was a really cool bike, and one of my, and this was completely random, dude, because like the way I do raffles, I have like a raffle, like a clear, like one of those like.
Oh, you have like a lottery, like a lottery thing,
with balls, dude, like with actual balls, and it's clear, dude, so you could see everything, dude, 100% like transparent. And in my buddy Tom, Semi Goods, who's out in the West Coast in Seattle, I posted like, oh, dude, I got like 5 tickets left, you know?
Yeah.
So he hit me up and, oh, I want a ticket. I said, okay. So he grabbed a ticket, and you know, I try and be as fair as I possibly can. So when the payments come in, I went back to like, you know, time.
Sure, I do the same thing.
Who had like paid at what time?
Actually, this last one, I found out I sold the tickets off my website, so I could just program in how many to sell.
Oh wow, that's
awesome. I didn't have to worry. Like the other times, I had to go back and refund some people because I go in order.
Yeah, that's what I had to do.
But this time, I was like, I sold the ski mask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, and I only put the certain amount, and so it actually saved me a lot of headaches because that thing sold out in hours. It would have way oversold. Had I gone, and then so it was cool.
Yeah. So he was the last ticket in, and when
it's weird for the last one to win, like the first of the last.
And I pulled his number and I called him, and I was like, hey. I was like, he said, what's up, dude? I'm at dinner with my wife. And I was like, nothing, man. I was like, he's like, yeah. Is everything cool? I said, yeah, dude, did you see the raffle? And he goes, no. Why? And I go, what do you think I'm calling? He goes, wait, man, dude. Yeah. He goes, you're not calling me because I think you're calling. I said, yeah, dude. He said, get the fuck out of here. So he was stoked because he's like, dude, I've done like 10 raffles, dude, and haven't won anything. And he's like, I really wanted that. He's like into Ironheads. He's like, I really wanted it.
He's a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. And
he's a sadomasochist.
Dude, I love Ironheads.
I know.
But
I love looking at them when they're cool.
But I was stoked that it went out to him.
And I'm fucking around. Everyone with an Ironhead's all pissed right now. We're just fucking around.
I love Ironheads, dude. They're just tractor motors, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, the transmissions are fucking like, and that whole shit where like the kicker gear fucking slips, you know, I'm sure like anybody that's listening that has an iron head knows. Yeah. They hyperextended their knee at one point in life.
Everyone with a iron head has a knee brace that they use sometimes. Yeah.
I when I had the shop, I had a bike that was a club guy's bike in Connecticut. I won't name any names as far as motorcycle clubs go, but and it's no longer there, but it was there in the 60s and 70s. And I bought this iron head, and it was all like tanks all molded in. It had a bunch of engine work done to it. And I was in the shop one day, and it's a motherfucker to kick over, dude. It's got a lot of compression, and
it's funny, right? You kick an iron head and you're like, what the fuck? And you kick a pan-head
and you're like, oh my God, dude, it's fucking so easy.
Bro, that 69 over there is so, like, you would almost think there's no compression. Like, it's so fucking easy. I don't know why. It's like...
I got a 57 pan that's like that. Yeah. I'm like, dude, is this thing sumping all the time? That's what it feels like. It's just like, you could start it with your hand. Yeah. And, dude, I kicked it and fucking, dude, I hyperextended my leg and I fucking almost passed out. And my dad... I was laying on the shop floor, dude, and because I was like, I had to really get into this thing to kick it. You know, I only weigh like 155 pounds, dude, wet. I'm not like the biggest dude, and like I'm 5'10". I'm not a big guy, and he comes over and he stands over me, like over my head, looking down at me, and he just goes, "Stop being a pussy." and I just, you know, and that was like my dad always, you know, that was always my dad. But yeah, that's my one big thing with iron heads is that kicker gear getting worn out and slipping. But I do love iron heads. I mean, they're super fast. Massachusetts is full of them.
I know.
That was like the bike to have in Massachusetts.
It is. You know what the problem is with iron heads from me with a business perspective is that guys pick them up super cheap and they're riddled with fucking problems.
Oh, riddled with problems.
And then they bring them in and then I'm like, bro, like it's going to be like this much to fix it. But I only paid this much for the bike. And I'm like, that's why you paid that much for the fucking bike. Dude.
Yeah. If you buy iron head, I'm like, I don't fuck with iron heads past 69.
Yeah.
So like I'm like XLCH Magneto dude when it comes to that stuff, and I have like 5 of them. But the if you're gonna buy an iron head, it's got to be a riding motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's not smoking.
Yeah.
That's you know.
Donnie, a guy used to work here, got a smoking deal on one. It was like a beautiful one, like all rebuilt. Like, and the dude even gave him all the receipts. Like, he had all this work done on him, and I think he paid like $800 for it.
Oh wow!
And it was like beautiful. Like the paint was a little dated. You know, it was like, you know, like 90s, like checkerboard and shit. You know what I mean? Like, but it was a beautiful bike. Like the motor was like pristine and all redone, and got it for like nothing. I
sold a '67. Survivor chopper to this kid. Like there's a bunch of younger dudes I say younger, they're not young dudes in Connecticut.
Younger than us.
Yeah, younger than us because we're fucking old now. But I sold him this pretty cool chopper. You know, it's like just like I would guess it was kind of like a bar hopper, kind of like, you know, raked out longer 70s chopper, but dirty and gritty and cool looking.
Yeah.
The original tank had like a zigzag man painted on it. Which for some odd reason, I don't know what it was with zigzag mans and gas tanks, but I have like
you got a lot of them,
dude. So many. I find them all the time. I'm like, what was this? I get it. Like people were into smoking weed and zigzag, but it's like this iconic. And I see them all the time. I'm like, man, and they're always like from the 60s and 70s. But
before you leave, I'll go show you the weed leaf in the Rum Runner.
Oh, dude, I gotta see. Yeah. And I sold it to him, and it ran and it smoked a little bit. I will say iron heads are like flatheads, and they'll run. If they run, they'll run forever.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, dude, you're going to have to do rings on this thing. It's smoking a little bit, you know. He ran that thing as is, I think, I want to say for 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. With it smoking so bad that nobody would ride behind him.
Yeah. But it just kept going.
It kept going, dude. And he, which is a lot to say for a motorcycle that, you know, is blowing fucking oil out of, out of the exhaust. And,
was he just being like stubborn, like just seeing how long it would ride?
No, I don't know if it was laziness or just see how long he could get out of it, or just not wanting to do the rings on it.
Because at some point that turns into a fucking contest.
Yeah,
like,
I
fuck
think
it. I'm just gonna ride.
I think it might have been that I should ask him, but I think he just wanted to ride a motorcycle and didn't give a fuck. And if it was running and riding, then that's it, you know. And it had electrical issues a little bit. And
that's always a conundrum. If you only have one bike, and I don't know if he did or not, but if that was his only bike, like it's like, do you want to fix it or do you want to fucking ride it? Yeah. But that's the beauty of New England. You got winter to fix it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, dude, not long ago, he gets a hold of me. He goes, dude, my fucking motor's shot. I go, what happened? I said, what'd you do? I said, did you do rings on it? He said, no, I never did rings on it. And I go, well, what happened to it? He said, I loaned it to a buddy of mine and he forgot to put oil in it.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why the bike fucking stopped running. It would have
still been running, yeah.
It would have still been running, dude. And it was, I don't think anything had probably ever been done to it since the 70s.
Yeah, so if it was smoking, he was probably going through... He was just going through it. It never had old oil in it.
No,
that's the other thing that kept it going. Always had clean oil
in it. You know, but again, it was just one of those things where I think Ironhead Sportsters get somewhat of a bad rep, and I know if they have issues, then they're issues.
A nightmare. But that's all I was talking about. That's what comes in here. The run and riding one doesn't come in here. The one with electrical wiring, fucking...
Yeah, because the dude that has the Ironhead that's running, it's his only bike, dude, because he can't afford anything else, and he's fucking out riding, like you said. He's just riding the shit out of it, dude, you know? I guess, you know, there's something to be said about the beauty of that, I guess. But,
absolutely.
You know?
My favorite thing is when we first started going to the smokeouts, there was this guy, John. He was an old Vietnam vet. We call him Viet John. He bought this Triumph Chopper for like a few $100. And he just fucking rode that thing. He rode that all the way to North. He was the only one that made it the whole way and back without anything fucking up. And he just rode that bike. And he goes, if something sounds wrong or something's going on, he goes, I just ride it till it fixes itself. And he got away with that for fucking years.
With a British
Triumph
bike, dude.
And dude, it was the funniest fucking thing. And he rode it. He goes, it's making a weird noise. I'm just gonna keep riding it. And he did. And it's like, you just get that one sometimes.
Yeah, I think I definitely you get the one where it's just like I said, good to go no matter what.
That Panhead that came in here, like I said, we split the cases and the fucking shaft came right out of the fucking flywheel.
Yeah,
and it was running. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It literally fell out. Wasn't like it took any. Like it didn't hammer it or anything. No, it just came out like it's like
it's crazy. But I mean, I guess that's
the beauty of older bikes is that the tolerance is like, you know, you're not going to get away without an M8.
Yeah, the testament. That's you know,
they're rickety and rackety and fucking tractor engines, but you get away with.
Well, I mean, that's the you
get away with more.
I can't ride a new bike. To me, if something's not rattling or making a sound, then there's something wrong with it. You know what I mean? Or if it's not leaking, you know, what's the old saying? Like if your bike's not leaking oil, it doesn't have any oil in it. Like, you know, and that's, you know, but there's something to be said. I think if anything, the connection between, and this, I guess this is going to sound fucking kind of, like,
I know what you're going.
Lame,
yeah,
but the you know, the connection with an old motorcycle for people that are listening that don't ride old motorcycles is there's more of a connection, I think, to there's something to be said to get on a motorcycle and push a button and go, you know, and just ride. But there's something also to be said, you can't get the same feeling on a new bike that you get on an old bike.
You have to be way more in tune with the old bike,
right,
to really recognize when something's wrong. When something's just a regular ass noise. Or when like you hear vibrate, like, oh, that bolt vibrated loose, I got to fix that later.
Right.
You know that bike more because you have to keep it going.
Yeah, and it connects you more to that.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing too is like these bikes don't stop, they don't go. You know, it's not like you could stop on a dime, you know.
No. Especially if you're riding a raked out chopper with no front brake.
Yeah, and a mechanical rear. I mean, I like mechanical rears.
Yeah, but you know that you got to give it way more length to fucking...
Oh, yeah. So I think when you're riding, you become like a better rider because you're more in tune with
or you're
the machine.
Die.
What's going on around you. You know, you can't just be like some knucklehead
you can't be on your fucking Bluetooth phone.
Yeah, or like
in your helmet talking.
Or doing like wheelies with a fucking with a GoPro on.
Yeah.
You know, but
I'm just thinking, when you said that, I'm thinking of all the chopper videos I've seen of someone doing an out of control wheelie, smashing into people or smashing into a row of bikes.
Or like
or when it comes down, skidding.
Almost falling over, like when it comes down and then just at the last second grabbing it or hitting a curb.
Yeah. There's so many of those.
There was like some video I just watched the other day. I'm not online a ton, but like it'll come up in my feed on Instagram. And it was like some dude in his, I don't know if you've seen it, it's like in his driveway, and he must have like a jockey shift, and his leg hits, it's like a brand new bike, like a brand new chopper, like it looks like it's just built.
But he hit it and it went into gear.
And he's standing up and he hits it and it goes into gear, dude. And then he just he just is flailing his legs behind him, like ragdolling across the street, and then hits the curb and runs up onto his neighbor's property, you know, like onto the lawn and shit. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, that's a son of a bitch, like to have a jockey shift and like hit it with your leg while it's running. Yeah. Like he was all proud of the bike, dude. And then the thing just takes off on him, like going across the street, you know?
Yeah.
But again, like that's, you know, when it comes, you know, old bikes, you kind of got to be more in tune, but I love that shit, dude. Yeah. There's nothing like riding.
You know what was cool about Triumphs was that I always would put jockey shift levers on it, but you could still hand clutch because it was the opposite side.
Yeah.
And that was always fun as fuck,
dude. And it's so, like, I did it, a friend of mine bought I think it's like a 67 like Survivor chopper. And I loved this bike. It was a really cool bike that was built, and it just had like a really cool look. And he was up in the Boston area for a long time, hardcore kid, and he had an accident with he was a steel worker, and a beam fell on his leg and fucked his leg all up, and we had to figure it out. And I tried to put like an air shifter on it, but the throw wasn't like long enough to put it on there. Yeah. So then I was like, dude, our only other option is like put like a jockey shift on this thing. And I put it on, dude. And it was like the funnest, easiest thing I was like, this is great. I was like, dude, this is the best. And then I just recently got the bike back. Like, he didn't ride anymore. And it was behind his uncle's garage.
Oh boy, yeah.
Under a fucking tarp. And it's so it
don't put them on the tops. That just makes it worse. Dude, you're not doing it better. It's just trapping moisture under
with one spark plug out of the fucking cylinder.
Oh,
dude.
Even better, yeah.
And so I got So I got it back, and I gave it a friend of mine ended up having
Was it frozen?
Yeah, it was frozen. So somebody I knew had a motor, so I ended up swapping the motor out. Actually, he did it because I didn't feel like doing it, and freed the other stuck motor up, which he's like a magician when it comes to that, dude. He's got like some technique where you like douses them and then heats the cylinders up a little bit, and does all that shit. So now I got an extra motor that for another bike, but I was happy to get the bike back, but the bike was so, dude, it was mint. It was like this, like super cool.
It was sad to see, Robbie,
Survivor,
right?
and then all the chrome was all. It looks cool now because it's more of a Survivor look.
Yeah,
but you know
but it was a clean Survivor, and now it looks like a Survivor.
Yeah, dude. When he got a hold of me, I was like, dude, I'll give you X amount of dollars for it. And then I went and I was like, dude, the engine's stuck on it and shit. And he was like, I don't care as long as you get it back. He was like, I was giving you, the first dibs on it, and I just I love that bike, and I didn't need another bike, dude.
Yeah. No one needs another. We don't. Well, no. Plenty of people need another bike. Right. Me and you don't need another bike.
No, dude.
But there's always going to be another bike.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah. When does it ever end?
Doesn't it?
It doesn't ever end. No. So I got it back, and it's running now, and it's just a cool piece to have, and the one thing that I'll say is I'm a chopper dude.
Yeah.
I don't like stock bikes. If people probably get pissed at me for saying this, but I'm going to be 100% honest. If I got a 37 or 36 knucklehead, you could bet your ass that I would pull all the tins off it and fucking make it a chopper.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a chopper dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's a BSA, whether it's a Triumph, whether
whatever
it, you know,
it is.
I think nowadays, like, you know, I'll say this. I think nowadays it's so cliquey with people because you have to have a certain thing.
Yeah.
And I think when we were younger and we were into it, it didn't matter. Like, it was just like the association. You're like, oh, dude, you're into choppers. Like, you got a Triumph chopper, or,
Cool.
you know,
Yeah, whatever.
Or like the old timers would always tell me, like, you know, a lot of the old timers I talked to, they were like, oh yeah, my first bike was a Triumph.
So many graybeards. That was always the story. Like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, when we used to set up at shows, like we'd set up and we'd be the only Triumph choppers, and like I'm talking about, like, not like chopper shows, but like the Bayside
bikes,
Expo, Boston, like motorcycle expo shows, and all the graybeards would be like, dude, my first bike was a 66, blah blah blah, and they would be so stoked, and they'd be all like so excited, and then be this dude next to us with like that, like a bike painted like fucking like M&Ms with like rotating around over a mirror, and like no one's saying shit. And like some dudes are coming up to us and they're like, dude, you got these like $2,000 bikes, like you know, whatever. You know?
And that was always like, you know, that was always the case. I mean, you know, the whole reason why Ironhead shift on the opposite side was, you know,
to race Triumphs.
Yeah. You know, and get the guys that were on Triumphs a bigger bike, but the guys that were on Triumphs never, you know, they would go, the chopper dudes would leave and obviously get big twins, but the race guys are like, fuck that, dude, I'm gonna make this faster.
Yeah.
You know, but I think a lot of that's lost now, because I think on, you know, with social media and people just seeing like all these dudes that are in, you know, like famous people, I won't name names.
You don't gotta.
But that are into motorcycles. And some of them are cool and some of them aren't into it, and I get it. But it's like, you know, they automatically think that that's, you know, and even some of the chopper guys, and even some of, you know, my friends that build bikes, and it's
I'll name names. I was at Born Free and Brad Pitt was walking by and talking shit about Triumphs, and I'm like, we were like, what the fuck do you know about Triumphs? What the fuck do you know? You're here because you're into bikes for like a week. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you.
Yeah, he's not into bikes anymore.
Fuck you, motherfucker. Like, what do you know about Triumphs? Like, tell me what you know. You know what I mean?
Does he even own a Triumph?
No, he doesn't. But it was like, there was a little while we had a chopper.
Yeah.
And then everybody clamors to him. Like, dude, fuck you, dude.
Did
like,
you see, like, and then he hit the, did you see the, like, where he hit the mirror on the parked car and then he dumped the fucking bike?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was probably it for for having a chopper. But it's like, you know, it's like, to me, if you're into choppers, you're just into choppers. Dude. It doesn't matter. You know, it's like, you don't need it. You know, and maybe some young dudes, I hope, are listening to this podcast, because you don't have to have a knucklehead to be cool. Like, there's this stigmatism with it being like, oh, dude, this is like the it shit.
I've never had a Honda chopper, but I've seen some fucking cool ass fucking Honda choppers. Like,
without a doubt. Like, I wouldn't like,
but like, you know, and it's like, and I know for a while you couldn't even give those away. But
but
now they're worth money again, you know. But like,
but some of the stuff that like some of these, you know, big time builders in the 70s were building these, you know, like CB 750s and shit like that. Some of it you look at, you're like, holy shit.
Got four pipes to fuck with, you know what I mean? It's four headaches, but like four pipes like to do something cool.
For sure. But you know, but I feel like somewhere along the way it's just been, you know, and maybe it's not like this with everybody, but it's like, you know, the younger generation is just like, I got to get a knucklehead. And you're just like,
well, it's like the Holy Grail, right? It's something to ascertain to, but it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you got one.
Yeah, but at the same point, like when you get one, what are you
gonna do? What's gonna happen when you ride it a lot and it blows up? You know, you're gonna buy another one,
right?
Or you're gonna fix that one,
right? But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's like my dad would, and maybe I get this from my dad, but my dad would ride anything with two wheels on, and I'm not saying like he rode it consistently. If you showed up at my house with a fucking Vespa scooter, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. my dad would be like, let me take it for a ride.
Yeah.
He didn't give a fuck what it was. Like, I remember I had a KX 250. Okay. My dad used to hill climb back in the day, like in the 60s. And he had a Ducati that he used to hill climb. And Munson, Mass, as a matter of fact, which is still there, the hill climb. And he would go up every weekend and hill climb. And my dad wasn't a short dude. He wasn't even tall enough to get on my 250. He had to step on the stairs at the house to get on the 250. He's like, let me take it for a ride. I go, dude, I don't know, man. This thing's like pretty ballsy, like the power band and the thing's fucking pretty gnarly. Let me take, okay. Takes it for a ride, rips the fucking thing up and down the street, comes back and goes, damn, I wish we had these things when I used to hill climb. And I think that was it instilled in me where it's like, maybe I won't buy everything, but like I'll ride anything with two wheels on. I don't give a fuck whether it's a fucking scooter or whether, and I think like with the chopper scene, it's just become so elitist. And it's cool. Like if you want to focus on like cobbling together a panhead and going out and finding the parts to do so.
I mean, it's so to me, it's like if in your heart of hearts, you've always wanted a knucklehead and that's been a bike you pined for. And for whatever reason, like whether it's like history or something, and you work to get that. Fuck yeah,
that's
man.
great.
If you're getting it because it's like, oh, I got to get one to be cool. Like you're spending a lot of money to and everyone's gonna see that you ain't cool.
Yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying?
And I think too, like I think, I think there is a lot of people doing a lot of cool stuff, but I've done a couple bikes for people, and this is like since like Instagram got kind of big and stuff, and every week they would change. It wasn't like they were saying, oh, dude, I want a 21 in the front instead of 18 or 19,
Yeah.
It was like major, I was like starting to work on stuff and it's like major changes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, I want a long bike. And then they'd be like, oh, no, I want an outlaw chopper.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and it's like it's not like looking through a magazine and getting an influence on something and then doing it. It's like instant gratification where every day somebody's posting something different.
Oh, I gotta have that.
And they're like, I gotta have that, dude. That's like the cool shit. I gotta have that. That's like the cool shit. And it's like, I just like when dudes are like, build a chopper. They're like, this is the way I want to build a chopper. And it might not be like your style of building it, but if they're stoked on it and they love it, then it's like art or music. It's like you can't be a critic to it, dude, because like
I used to hate that when people would shit on people's bikes. Like I would never shit on something that someone put a lot of time, effort, and blood, sweat, and tears into. Like if I don't like it.
Yeah,
like,
if it's not your trip, dude,
visually,
then it's not your trip.
If they were doing some sketchy shit and trying to sell the bike, I'd be like, yo, don't fix that before you fucking sell it. You're going to kill somebody. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But I would never shit on somebody's like fucking, like a lot of stuff comes in here. It's not my thing, but someone's so stoked on that bike. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. And sometimes I'm like, I wish I was that stoked on anything anymore, dude.
I know.
Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
know.
someone comes in their
So
first bike and they're so fucking excited. And I'm like, bro, I wish I was that excited about anything.
Yeah.
We both like a lot of different shit and a lot of different bikes, but like, what's your favorite shit? Like in your heart of hearts, like I can tell you right now, like mid 60s, like club style, like goofy outlaw choppers is my favorite thing.
I would say that like as far as an iconic, at one point on the way here, I was like, I hope he doesn't ask me what is my favorite favorite band and my favorite style of motorcycle. But I'm not
going to ask your favorite band.
I would have to,
because I know there's too much.
I would have to say,
like I love like crazy long bikes.
I love that shit too.
I like diggers and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I love that shit too. But
I always go to like 66.
So and that is like
or 67.
The golden era for me. It's like
I know that. Dude.
It's like split. It's like Springer front end, like stock length Springer front end, 21-inch wheel. Yep. This is like the recipe for a chopper, dude.
It's like not long but tall.
And it's like either drag bars with with like a 4 to 6 inch rise on them.
Yeah.
I love split tanks. I also love like, a Hap Jones or a Wassel tank on it, depending what it is. And then I know 18 rears aren't really an East Coast thing and they're more a West Coast thing. From history, most of the, guys out here ran 16s because the roads are real fucking shitty and it was a nicer ride. But I do like an 18 rear, and then, just like a Wassel, like slightly bobbed Wassel rear fender. I think that's like, and I see a lot of these bikes and you can't go wrong with that bike, dude. It's just badass looking,
It's like, yeah. And I know a lot of people are trying to do like the craziest fucking thing and the next thing and get real fucking wacky. But I mean, that shit's timeless and fucking classic and classy. Like
to me, I love that style bike. When I see bikes that are like, when I see a cone shovel that's built like that, it's like a tough pill to swallow for me because because
it should be like a pan or maybe or a generator shovel,
or a knuckle, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit difficult. I understand where people are going with it because it can't get a pan head and that's, or they want something that's a little bit more reliable.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's like the fucking chocolate chip cookie of fucking choppers, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't go wrong. Like, it's really hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like that era.
Yeah.
It's like it just, the ingredients are.
It's perfect.
Are just there.
Perfect. And if you don't know what we're talking about, look up any like Roger Corman movie from like the mid '60s. Just look at the bikes in that.
Like Devil's Angels, like any of that stuff. And that's the that's the style of and obviously originated from Southern California, but because I think the East Coast bikes always had like this weird kooky thing, like in the '60s, like they just out here they came from a different mindset a little bit, where you get like the double E white walls on the rear, or like an 18-inch front wheel, or like a 16-inch rear, but it's kind of hard to mess up that. I mean, that I could look at those bikes all day long, dude, and not get sick of that style of motorcycle, I mean, I would love to find like a true survivor from that era, from there, but those are getting all picked up and auctioned off. Yeah, raffled off. Pretty much. I mean, my knuckle was pretty close to it. I mean, there was a couple things that were changed so that he could ride it. And then the rear fender had like a bobbed, like big twin fender on it, like hinged fender, that he did later on. But the bike was repainted, I think in '74, he said. But then I put the VL Springer on it. But I think like, there's still stuff out there, dude. I know. And there's still, you don't ever know. I mean, it just takes you walking into like a Fastenal and saying buying a weird bolt, and then you end up with with a knucklehead. But yeah, I love it, and I love that era of stuff too, just because I think people were getting influenced by other stuff that wasn't motorcycle shit. And I think a lot now is just like visuals where, or it's like trying to outdo something. It's like, yeah, you could do anything, dude, but that doesn't necessarily mean it looks good. Yeah, exactly. It's like you could throw shit, it's like almost like, like throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks. It's like, I get what you're saying. Plus, that time frame just seemed pretty fucking fun. Yeah, it was wild. I always say like, if I, I'm not a club dude, but if I was in, that was like I'd be a club dude in the mid '60s. That was like the I would say alternative style of living back then. You know what I mean? Because they were like it was all about motorcycles, and it wasn't about anything else but just building bikes and riding bikes and being around dudes that were bikes. I'm sure a lot of fucked up shit happened that's not really PC,
Yeah.
we've all heard stories, but at the same time, it was more or less about bikes than it was about anything else, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's not nowadays, as far as the motorcycle scene or like dudes building choppers, I think to some degree, but it's a different era. You can't live.
It's not as free.
Yeah. You can't live like that anymore.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But yeah, if I could have one wish, it would probably be to have a time machine that I can go back to that and big enough that I could fit a bunch of bikes in. So
Yeah, just go grab a bunch.
Yeah, and
put them in storage. Come back,
and then come back.
Yeah, I think of the same thing.
Yeah, put them somewhere that nobody would ever find them, and then just come back. Like
just rent the storage unit, pay for it
in full.
Because back then you could probably go buy like a fucking garage for like fucking pennies.
Pennies, and just keep the shit in there and
lock it up and be like, I pay my taxes for 30 years in advance. Leave me alone.
Taxes would be like absolutely nothing, and then you just go back and have this like treasure trove of bikes and
these panhead choppers that are literally only a few years old, but and
to some degree, I know we haven't like talked about my show, and I know we got to wrap it up soon, but
I know, dude, it's almost, I can't believe we haven't even hit on Night of the Troglodytes yet. And we're almost 4 hours in, dude.
Jesus Christ, dude.
We're literally,
you're going to have to edit this thing.
No, it's just going to go. But think about it. We were talking like 2-3 hours before we even started.
I know. It's been a long time since we caught up with each other. But so I'm not plugging the show.
No,
whatsoever
absolutely do it because it fits right into what we're talking about right now.
But what I was getting at was that to some degree, what we've created at Night of the Trogloddytes, which is like the pre-party to the Race of Gentlemen in Wildwood, New Jersey, is basically giving a feel that's,
a nod to that.
Yeah. And the great part about it is, over the years, dude, there's a bunch of old dudes that have like come to the show, and I handpick all the bikes.
Yeah.
And then my wife helps me out a lot with it. There's a certain bike, and I try to keep it 60s to 70s. The cutoff for bikes for motors is 76, because that's pretty much when choppers stopped being choppers and they started becoming custom motorcycles.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of slack for it, dude. And people are like, "Why can't?" And I'm like, "I can't let everybody in. There's got to be a cutoff at some point." So I do let cone shovels in.
If they're 76 and earlier.
Yeah. and it's got to be OEM cases. Can't be like aftermarket S&S or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And people are more than welcome to come and park out in front.
What about if it's like old, like House of Horsepower fucking cases or something?
So, I always say there's always exceptions to every. I'm
not trying to be devil's advocate.
No. And you can. There's exceptions to all rules.
Yeah.
If I'm just trying to weed out the S&S stuff, and
sure.
and I have nothing against that stuff.
Course,
it's good stuff, but
you're trying to keep it like authentic to the time.
And I think I think once you start, and people give me shit for it all the time, and they email me and say all kinds of bullshit, like, this is bullshit. And I'm like, dude, there's 80 million shows that you can go to, build a bike that fits the criteria, and I'll let you in. Yeah. It's not, dude.
It's nothing on you.
Yeah. It's not about the person. It's not about being like a clique or like being like elitist or anything like that. It's about the motorcycle. And that's what the show is all about. It's just about the motorcycles and partying and having a good time and being in a space that, is reminiscent of a different time. And
dude, I'm such a fucking asshole because I know you've invited me since the first one. And I will be there.
Dude, it's fucking far.
I know. I have to make more fucking time where I'm not.
But it's because
I got you and I got Jimmy G harassing me for when he goes and races.
Oh yeah,
I have to come out this time.
Yeah, Jimmy G's out on the beach racing, dude.
I got to come out.
He's fucking, dude, and he is so amped on it.
I know.
It's fucking great to see. He's like a kid in a candy store when it comes to that shit. But I know how, but it's far, and it's far enough where it's fucking far, but
it's not really,
but at the same time, I've had a lot of old timers over the years that have come and been like, you know, old club guys or like just old bikers.
Yeah.
Some of them have brought bikes and, you know, didn't even email me or anything. I was like, bring that thing in. That thing's sick, you know? And they're just like, dude, this takes me back to like my heyday of like biker shit, you know? And the hotel where we have it in is split between the Bins and the Benito, which is 2 hotels, and the show is in the middle. So the Benito is reserved for people that are in the show, that have bikes in the show. And then the Bins is for anybody that wants to come. That's, you know, I would say people that are in the show, and then, friends or people exhibiting or whatever that's there selling stuff, whatever. And then the Bins is for, that are people that are just coming to the show, like spectators. So you literally party in this parking lot from like 6 o'clock until 12 o'clock at night, and then you go to the hotel. But it's become, this is like, last year it got canceled because of the hurricane. Yeah. So it was 10 years last year, but technically this year will be 10 years.
10th show, yeah.
And we had a little show in the rain out there, and it's rad because like, you know, and this is no like, I'm not dissing like hot rod guys by any means, or custom guys, but like as soon as there's a drop of rain, those dudes are fucking gone. Like they got their cars covered, they're underneath, and like we're out there in this, you know, rain pouring and fucking partying. Like when there's, you know, like like bands still playing and shit and all that stuff. So we did a little bit this year. It was like unofficial, official, 10 years. So, but a lot of these guys, you literally party and you just go into your hotel. Yeah. And then all the chopper dudes hang out the whole weekend. So there's like a chopper show, unofficial chopper show from Friday, Saturday into Sunday. You know, every night everybody's doing something, you know, there's a couple pools there and we just, you know, we have a blast. And it's rad because like, you know, everybody's such good people, and it's just about motorcycles, man. It's not, you know, there's so many people that are spectators that are in the parking lot that if you take a picture from the balcony, you can't see bikes.
Yeah, because it's just a sea of people,
and it's just dudes standing around talking
about the bikes,
and kid. You know, like, you know, we have families that come and kids that like. Quick story is, I have one kid that came down with his dad, and they come to the show every year now, and Dom, and it's really cool because this is like one of the cool aspects of it. So the first year they come down, they don't even know that it's happening. You know, I don't think they
were just there randomly.
They were there randomly, I believe, like on vacation. They could have went down for Trog, but I'm not 100% sure. So they come down, they come to the chopper show. Okay. He's a young kid. I think he was like maybe 14 or 15. Falls in love with choppers, dude. Okay.
Now the kid's 24.
So his dad, they go to, I'm pretty sure I think they're from like Pennsylvania. They go to Wasion, okay? Him and his dad. They go and buy a panhead. Like, they go and buy like like they go out to the swap meet, dude, and they buy all these parts, right? Yeah. And they build a chopper, him and his dad, build a fucking chopper, and then bring it to my show, dude. I don't remember if it was the next year or the year after. And him and his old man, you know, his dad's got like a wide tire chopper. And just awesome human beings, dude. Yeah. And you know, and it's crazy to think that if he wasn't there at that time in that moment, he would have known nothing about choppers or panheads or anything, you know, and it was just
lightning struck at
the right place at the right time. And you know, he brings his bike, he usually changes it every year, and I let him into the show if, you know, if he does sufficient modifications to it. But if not, then he just comes down and they come every year, and it's just, you know, it's cool to I guess somewhat be a catalyst for, you know, something like that. Yeah. And it's literally about having a good time and just hanging out and, you know, motorcycles. Yeah. You know, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, man, like if you don't fit the criteria, ride down and park your bike in the front. you know, and even guys with choppers, like with SNS motors and whatnot, it's like people are standing outside looking at, they're just bike people.
Yeah.
You know, and there's not a lot of that anymore. You know, it's not a lot of camaraderie where it's just bike people talking about motorcycles. So, dude, you will be invited as long as I have the show.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing it this year. I'm doing it this year.
We are actually having it this year. We were unsure whether there was some issues with the city of Wildwood last year. They had some tuner kids come down and take over the city 2 weeks before the show and the race, and some innocent bystanders got killed because they were racing down the street.
They gotta understand that that's a different thing.
And they somewhat do, and they've been really good. The old mayor Ernie had been the mayor for a long time. He was really cool with us. He was a firefighter, and we would have like the firefighters, they would take care of the beer at the show.
Yeah.
And dude, on Friday night, Ernie, the mayor, would be there pouring beers for all the biker dudes. So he would be working at pouring beers. You know, that's how cool he was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the chief of police fucking hates my guts. I don't know why. I guess because I'm into motorcycles.
Yeah.
Makes it. It's not like I haven't dealt with these people my whole life. So he just gets a middle finger anyway. But it's a great weekend, dude. Not only just the chopper show, the beach races are amazing, and you know it's a cool thing to at least experience. So, you know,
fuck yeah, man. To tell everyone what's like give people information on where they can find out more information about Tradition Cycles, the show. All that stuff.
So basically, pretty much Instagram. I have a website. I sell goods on the website. The website's doesn't have much on it right now.
Give the plugs. Again, I'm going to put all this in the show notes as well. But
again, just because of all the stuff that was happening, I didn't have the time to be, shipping and whatnot. So Tradition Cycles on Instagram, and Night of the Trogloddytes is also on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to check me out. And, and if you got any questions or anything, you can always hit me up. I'll always reply to you on that. I think it's just easier to keep one thing,
Yeah.
And then the website is traditioncycles.com.
All right, man. Well, fuck yeah, we'll do this again because we're gonna do a part 2. This conversation could keep going. We're literally at 3 hours and 53 fucking minutes.
I'm sorry, dude.
No, you don't apologize.
No,
like
I'm just saying. I tend to be long-winded sometimes, but again, I'm
shit.
like I told you earlier, and this is probably the last thing. Out here being into this stuff, you're not, we're far enough away from each other where we're not close, and you're not right around the corner. I don't get to talk motorcycle talk very often with too many people, and it's always inspiring, especially to talk to you. And I respect. I do want to say that I thank you for having me on the show. I also respect 100% everything that you've done and do for the scene for motorcycles out here. And
likewise, my friend.
And I'm glad that we're cut from the same cloth because I can identify with you 100%. So.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, you're an old friend, but you're also the quintessential guest for this fucking show.
Thanks.
And but no. And I was like stoked, and I was like, we talked about this before. It was like, fucking. Then when you kind of reemerge, I was like, dude, you gotta fucking come on, man. We gotta do this. You know what I mean?
I'm glad I made the trip up, and now it won't take me. Never to get up here, dude. No. I'll be up here soon enough.
And next time you buy a bike, fucking the next town over in a Sonnet, you better fucking stop by.
This was like a long time ago, dude.
Yeah, I know. I'm just fucking with you. Fucking with you.
But again, I probably would have hit you up if I didn't get T-boned by that lady going to pick up
crazy.
The motorcycle. So
yeah, that's wild.
So yeah, next time we'll talk about something.
And let's go bother Kelsey.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Motherfucker.
Right.